Chapter 961. Under extreme anxiety and fear, Li Longyuan, who was already weakened and had little cultivation left, actually had strands of white hair on his temples in a short time. Coupled with his slightly hunched waist, Li Longyuan seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. Before this, he was full of confidence and arrogance. In his eyes, Jiang Tian was just an ant from the earth domain, after all. He was only at the second stage of the Foundation establishment realm, and his dantian was injured. Demonic aura had entered his body, and he could not withstand a single blow. On his side, it could be said that he used all his strength even when hunting a rabbit. First, he used salvation to plot against Jiang Tian. Although he did not succeed, he completely isolated Jiang Tian and made him the mortal enemy of the entire stellar sky domain. When his first plan failed, he came up with another one. At the Green Hill Grand Meet, all the leaders of the world's top sects were gathered, and there were tens of thousands of cultivators and thousands of exalted immortals. Logically speaking, this was already a foolproof plan in the eyes of ordinary people. However, Li Longyuan actually had a backup plan. He even awakened 3 veteran Golden Core and Ancestor-level figures in case of any accidents. Only then did he feel assured. It could be said that Li Longyuan's plan was flawless and meticulous. It was like using a crane to smash a bug to death. In anyone's eyes, there was no possibility of failure at all. However, they did not expect it at all. The great demon Baizhe actually appeared and became Jiang Tian's henchman. After all, the great demon Baizhe's appearance was only a legend. One had to know that the great demon Baizhe's physical body was destroyed by Li Longyuan and the veteran Golden Core, and only a damaged essence spirit was left. Many people had always thought that Baizhe could not condense a physical body at all. The rumors of many demon kings appearing were just a bluff to increase the unity of the demon race and to fight against the thousands of sects. However, the great demon Baizhe really appeared and condensed a powerful physical body and recovered his cultivation. Moreover, he brought 100,000 demon soldiers and demon generals with him. This was not something he could resist. The key was that Baizhe was also together with Kang Teichu. The old and new grudges were all life and death grudges. How could Baizhe let him off? How could Jiang Tian let him off? It was a calamity. It could be said that this time, the Starry Sky Palace was absolutely no match for Jiang Tian's group. They would be trampled on and trampled on. Amazing. After a long time, Jiang Tian swept his gaze across the thousands of experts present and spoke slowly. Jiang Tian's voice was light, but to everyone's ears, it sounded like a thunderclap. At the moment, the square was dead silent, just as the entire Green Hill was absolutely silent. In this world, only Jiang Tian's voice could be heard. Other than that, there was only the soft sound of their teeth chattering. When they met Jiang Tian's gaze, all of them went silent like cicadas in the winter, and their gazes revealed deep fear and shock. All of them lowered their heads successively and didn't dare meet Jiang Tian's gaze. In the heavenly star small world, I, Kang Teichu, am the enemy of the entire world. You have the advantage in numbers. Now, take a look, whose power is greater? Back then, I, Kang Teichu, said that so what if I am the enemy of the entire world? So what if I am filled with gods and Buddhas? I am not even afraid of true gods, what more you ants? The entire stellar sky domain is nothing in the eyes of I, Kang Teichu. Jiang Tian sneered and questioned with a cold look in his eyes. Now, everyone, tell me, which one of you is worthy of being my enemy? Step forward. This time, no one dared to say a word. The entire place was dead silent. Many demon leaders and demon generals worshipped Jiang Tian as their leader, and 100,000 demon soldiers followed. Even the infamous demon king Baizhe, who once dominated the entire star world, knelt before Jiang Tian. That was enough to explain everything. The 3 veteran Golden Core realm experts could only be regarded as the disciples and grand disciples of demon king Baizhe. How could they challenge Jiang Tian, who was worshipped by Baizhe like a god? Jiang Tian had such terrifying strength, status, and power. How could these ants, who were not even worthy of carrying Bai Zai's shoes, be qualified to be Jiang Tian's enemy? At this moment, they all understood. They had underestimated the number one person in the Earth domain, underestimated Jiang Tian. It could even be said that they had eyes but failed to see. Even Demon King Bai Zai could be suppressed and intimidated. How could they be qualified to provoke him? It was like a group of ants wanting to challenge a divine dragon. It was simply a fool's dream. Li Longyuan, you are wrong again and again. You are extremely stupid, but there is one thing you said that is not without reason. At this moment, Jiang Tian spoke in a leisurely and unhurried manner as he spoke indifferently. In this world, the strong are respected. Killing a few ants is nothing. If the ants dare to challenge me, they should be trampled on. Come, you can judge me and trample on me. I'd like to see how you can judge me. Jiang Tian's voice had not yet faded. Bai Zai's face darkened. He suddenly attacked and slapped Li Longyuan's head. Bang! Li Longyuan felt as if 10,000 mountains were pressing down on him. All the bones in his body were almost broken. His knees went soft, and he knelt on the ground. Even his head and hands were touching the ground. He was prostrating himself on the ground. On the other hand, Jiang Tian raised his right foot and stepped on Li Longyuan's head. He sneered mockingly and said, Li Longyuan, the palace master of the Stellar Sky Palace, the number one person in the Stellar Sky domain. Come, tell me how you are going to trample on me. Li Longyuan's face was full of humiliation. However, in his heart, there was more fear than humiliation. He was so scared that he was trembling. At this moment, under Jiang Tian's foot, he felt that all his true essence and abilities were sealed. He could not even gather the astral winds to protect his body. He was like a naked baby, unable to withstand a single blow. It could be said that if Jiang Tian stomped down, his head would be smashed into pieces, and he would die. Jiang Tian looked at Master Shixiang and sneered. If I'm not wrong, you thought that I was being treated, so you trapped me in the 1000 Buddha pagoda and destroyed my soul. This rotten idea was from you, you old bald thief, right? Master Shixiang was so scared that his heart skipped a beat. His whole body was trembling. He looked at Master Kuhai with a pale face and said in a trembling voice. Old ancestor, save me. I'm doing this for the safety of this world. However, Master Kuhai acted as if he did not see him. He looked down, fiddled with his prayer beads, and chanted Buddha's name. In fact, he was so scared that he almost wet himself. He cursed in his heart. Damn it, why are you calling me? Can't you see that Bai Zai is here? I can't even save myself. How can I save you? Old people who don't die are thieves. You don't have much ability, but you're good at scheming. Jiang Tian flung his sleeves and snorted in disdain. As Jiang Tian finished speaking, Master Shixiang felt an irresistible suction force coming towards him. In the next moment, Master Shixiang was grabbed by Bai Zai and was choked by his throat. Bai Zai wanted Master Shixiang to kneel in front of Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian waved his hand and said indifferently, he's not worthy of kneeling in front of me. Too disgusting. Go to hell. Bai Zai grabbed Master Shixiang like an eagle grabbing a chick and smashed him onto the ground. Bang! Master Shixiang smashed a deep hole in the square. His bones were broken and his monk robe was torn. His whole body was covered in blood. Blood was coming out of his mouth. Jiang Tian said coldly, Shixiang, I, Kang Te Chu, have no enmity with your demon-suppressing temple. I even saved your Buddhist disciples. But your demon-suppressing temple is ungrateful and set me up again and again. After that, you slandered me with all your might. You misled the public with your lies and instigated the heroes of the world to be my enemy. You owe me a head. Do you want me to kill you or let these little bald donkeys of the demon-suppressing temple be buried with you? You only have a breath's time to consider. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and emotionless. Poof! His hand rose and the knife fell. A bald head flew up. Master Shixiang chose to commit suicide. The headless corpse fell to the ground with blood spurting out. Because he knew that if he didn't commit suicide, the demon-suppressing temple's centuries of Tao teachings would be destroyed and they would be met with a calamity. At the same time, the 8 demon leaders rushed into the demon-suppressing temple camp like wolves in a flock of sheep. They attacked ruthlessly and a wave of knife light swept out. Poof! 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 Blood gushed out and corpses were strewn everywhere. Blood stained the ground. More than 10 eminent monks and vajras were decapitated on the spot. Although they were Foundation establishment cultivators, they had almost no strength to resist against the 8 demon leaders. They were the backbone of the demon-suppressing temple who participated in the plot against Jiang Tian. They had once traveled to various major sects and huge cities, slandering Jiang Tian and instigating various major forces to besiege Jiang Tian. They deserved their punishment for their crimes. Master Kuhai did not have the slightest bit of resentment. Instead, he chanted the name of Buddha again and said that these people deserved to be killed. He thanked Immortal Master Jiang for cleaning up the sect. Jiang Tian only killed a few culprits. It could be said that he was too kind. He was extremely benevolent. It would be too easy on you if I left your corpse intact. Bai Zai slapped down, smashing Master Shixiang's head and corpse into dust. Jiang Tian looked at Shen Tij and sneered. Shen Tij, you disrespected me at Crimson Thunder Mountain. I should have killed you. I only wanted you to send a message, so I gave you a chance to live. I didn't expect you to still be so stubborn and continue to be my enemy. You want to take revenge and besiege me. Immortal Master Jiang, don't kill me. I am a golden core cultivator. I am willing to submit to you and help you govern this world. When he met Jiang Tian's cold eyes, Shen Tij was so scared that he stumbled back. He was full of fear and almost peed on the spot. Cultivators were also human. They were afraid of death, even more so than ordinary people. Because cultivation was to seek longevity and immortality, they viewed life as much more important than ordinary people. At this moment, facing the threat of death, Shen Tij, the Heaven Star War God who had killed tens of thousands of people, was really scared. Golden Core. Ha, what kind of trash is that? Does my master need your help? Bai Zai's eyes were arrogant. He grabbed Shen Tij and sneered. The true immortal Tai Chu has already given you a chance, and you dare to provoke him? You really don't know what death is. A fool like you doesn't need to kill yourself. I'll kill you. Suddenly, he transformed into a half-human, half-demon form. His head rapidly expanded to the size of a water tank, and he opened his bloody mouth. No! As Shen Tij screamed and begged for mercy, Bai Zai swallowed Shen Tij's head. Chewing like a whirlwind, Monster King Bai Zai ate Shen Tij's upper body, lower abdomen, and limbs unhurriedly. When he ate people, it was like a person eating grapes. He even spat out clothes and organs from time to time. Crunch, crunch. The sound of teeth rubbing against bones and swallowing sounded in the silence, making those who heard it almost go crazy. Chapter 962. They had long heard that Bai Zai was ferocious and that his killing methods were extremely cruel and bloody. Today, they finally saw it for themselves. Swallowing people alive. This kind of killing method simply scared everyone out of their wits. Sing Hung Yuan. Weren't you all scared out of your wits just now? Didn't you say that I was an ant? Didn't you want to skin me alive and chop me into pieces? However, Jiang Tian's expression did not change. He looked at Sing Hung Yuan and his son with a faint smile. Although their cultivation levels were not high enough, and there was a huge gap between them and Shen Tij and Zhou Yunkai, they were arrogant and jumped the highest. Immortal Master Jiang, don't kill me. I know I was wrong. Dad, ancestors, save me. Sing Renwang was so scared that he peed his pants. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Who could save him? No one could save him. Immortal Master Jiang, I was blind. Don't kill me. Please be merciful. Tsing Hongyuan was so scared that he knelt down and kowtowed non-stop. He just wanted to save his life. At this moment, he was filled with regret. Actually, he originally had the attitude of a bystander and was not as active as Shin Tij and Fang Jingqiang. However, he was so arrogant after hearing that Jiang Tian's cultivation level was at the second level of foundation establishment. Anyway, he was just stepping on ants. He had the moral high ground and could win Li Longyuan's favor. Why not? However, he never thought that it would end like this. Be merciful. It's too late. As soon as Jiang Tian finished speaking. Skin you alive and chop you into pieces? Sure. A demon leader who had formed a demon core had a ferocious expression. He reached out his scaly hand and grabbed Tsing Hongyuan. Crack. His right hand grabbed Tsing Hongyuan's ankle and used a secret technique to pull out all the tendons in his body. Ah! Spare me. True immortal Jiang, I know I was wrong. Tsing Hongyuan's blood-stained body turned into noodles. He screamed and his eyes were filled with fear and pleading. Chi! 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 The great demon's eyes were ferocious. Without saying a word, it grabbed the top of his head and a thick wave of vital chi entered his body through the wound. Immediately, his skin was removed, and his clothes exploded, leaving only a naked and bloody body lying on the ground. During this process, Tsing Hongyuan kept cursing, and then he screamed miserably. He struggled with all his might, and his throat was broken. Finally, he fainted from the pain. The whole place was dead silent. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. Their hearts suddenly tightened and exploded. No one had expected that Tsing Hongyuan, who had always been so fierce and arrogant, threatening Jiang Tian that he would pull out Jiang Tian's tendons, peel off his skin, and chop him into pieces, would have such a tragic end. True immortal Jiang, please give me a quick death. After a while, Tsing Hongyuan woke up. His eyelidless eyes seemed to be protruding. He rolled his eyes and begged weakly. Good. Jiang Tian frowned. Jiang Tian had seen all kinds of cruel killing methods, but in fact, Jiang Tian had no intention of torturing him. It was just that these demon clan members were originally quite vicious, and they had the attitude that they had to correct the wrong. They wanted to use a bloody massacre to fiercely intimidate the Starry Sky Palace's henchmen. Remember to thank true immortal Jiang for his kindness. The demon clan leader shouted and attacked without hesitation. His sharp saber swept and lifted Tsing Hongyuan up. Then, he slashed horizontally and vertically. Chi! 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 Blood gushed out like a fountain. Tsing Hongyuan's head flew over 10 meters away and was chopped into hundreds of pieces. His body parts fell to the ground like rain. Ga! 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 Seeing this, Tsing Renwang fell to the ground in fright. He twitched violently as if he had epilepsy. His mouth was crooked, and his eyes were slanted. Green bile seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Although this grandson is just an ant, he is quite disgusting. Kill him. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Pooh! Pooh! A hall master stepped forward and stabbed Tsing Renwang in the heart. Tsing Renwang's voice stopped abruptly. Then, a few demon generals swarmed forward. Their sabers slashed wildly. They chopped Tsing Renwang into minced meat and slaughtered more than 10 members of the Tsing family. None of them were left alive. Yuan Jing. Sect leader Shi, everyone from the Li River Sword sect. Jiang Tian looked around and said calmly. True immortal Jiang, we know our mistakes. Please spare our lives. Yuan Jing, sect leader Shi, and the others looked as if they were struck by lightning. Their faces were as pale as paper, and cold sweat covered their faces. Their bodies trembled violently. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed crazily. Their foreheads hit the ground heavily, making muffled sounds. What did you all say in front of the Jadewell Peak? That you would work with me for the great cause and never leave me. Jiang Tian's face was emotionless. He said calmly, you all betrayed me. You've betrayed me. I've already given you a chance by ignoring you. I asked you to leave the Fangzhou Peak to give you another chance. Jiang Tian said with a mocking tone. But, when Yuan Zihua and the others came, you flaunted your strength in front of me? Sometimes, I wonder if I'm too kind. I killed too few people and you think I'm easy to bully? That's why you made me your enemy time and time again. The sect leader of the Li River Sword sect and Yuan Jing did not dare to speak. They could only tremble non-stop. True immortal Jiang, I have good intentions. I don't want to see you, cult leader. She's charming face put on a pitiful expression. She wanted to explain a few more words. Shut up. Bai Zhe slapped her to the ground and shouted angrily, True immortal Jiang, do you need the support of Yuan Zihua and the others? Who do you think you are to be true immortal Jiang's enemy? These two-faced fence-sitters are even more disgusting than Li Longyuan. Kill them. Jiang Tian said coldly. Yes, master. The demons closed in and surrounded Wisdom Temple, Li River Sword sect and Snake Desire sect, massacring them like tigers entering a flock of sheep. The three sects did not have the strength to resist at all. Instantly, saber lights flashed and blood gushed out as tragic cries filled the air. A few breaths later, 400 cultivators were lying in a pool of blood. Blood flowed everywhere within 100 meters of the square, creating a glaring scarlet color. The pungent smell of blood filled the air, enough to make people tumble. Master, the headquarters of Wisdom Temple, Li River Sword sect and Snake Desire sect have been destroyed by us. All the disciples guarding the sects have been killed. Another demon general covered in blood descended from the sky and knelt in front of Jiang Tian to report. Jiang Tian only nodded slightly, and he was calm and composed. How terrifying! At that moment, everyone was scared out of their wits when they saw that. Their bodies felt as though they had fallen into an ice cellar as they shuddered. Previously, Miayu, Shentij and Fiend Suppression Temple had interacted with Jiang Tian. In fact, Miayu had even openly provoked Jiang Tian and insulted Jiang Tian for fishing for fame. However, Jiang Tian did not kill all of them. Many people felt that Jiang Tian was not ruthless enough and it was as though it was fine to provoke him. At that moment, they realized that Jiang Tian was a peerless fiend who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance and was cold to the extreme. His might was inviolable. Kill all of them. Leave no one alive. Directly annihilate these three forces, leaving not a single one of their descendants behind. In fact, even a sect master or city lord like Miayu was shivering in fear and could not contain the fear in his heart. Miayu. In the silence, Jiang Tian suddenly looked at Miayu and said coldly, Actually, I've asked your disciple to tell you before. However, you provoked me again and again and even made me your enemy. Do you know your sins? Indeed, I was blind to have offended you, perfected immortal Jiang. Miayu smiled bitterly, his heart filled with mixed feelings. He sighed. But at that time, I did want to fulfill your wish and protect you. However, you rejected me. That's why I flew into a rage. Smack. Suddenly, a slap landed on Miayu's face. Blood spurted out of her nose and her face turned pale. However, the person who hit her was not Jiang Tian, but Demon King Bai Zhe. Protect my master. Bai Zhe laughed. His laughter was filled with disdain. My master can even kill the tree demons of Chaos Cloud Valley and his combat power is comparable to a golden core cultivator. Does he need your protection? As soon as he said that, others were fine. However, Yuan Zihua, Master Kuhai and Dao Master Kunling's expressions changed and they looked at Jiang Tian as if they had seen a ghost. What? Immortal Master Jiang killed the tree demon. They all exclaimed in disbelief. The tree demon had been suppressed more than 1,000 years ago and hadn't appeared for a long time. Many people didn't know where it came from. Even Miayu's generation didn't know much about it. However, the experienced golden core cultivators knew about it. That was an existence that even the heavenly god's sex master and great monster Baizé had to be wary of. Many golden core overlords had died in order to suppress the fiend tree demon in Chaos Cloud Valley. However, Jiang Tian had actually killed him with a raise of his hand. He killed the fiend tree demon. His power is unfathomable, the key is his divine powers and combat power. He's indeed at the third level of the Foundation establishment level, but he's much more powerful than a golden core cultivator. I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up with him even if we wait for another 10 years. At first, the three ancestral patriarchs thought that Jiang Tian only relied on Baizé to bully others. They were even a little unwilling and thought that if Baizé wasn't around, they might be able to kill Jiang Tian. But at this moment, when they heard this, their unwillingness and weak pride instantly turned into fear and cold sweat. All that was left in their hearts was their deep respect and fear for Jiang Tian. Chapter 963. Miayu, I won't kill you. But you can't escape punishment. Jiang Tian didn't care about their shock. He looked at Miayu indifferently and set the tone. Although you're not an evil person, you're too stubborn, arrogant, and cold. You lack the big picture. Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back and said coldly. Slap yourself 30 times as a warning. From now on, you have to remember that there's always someone better than you. I know I'm wrong. Miayu was convinced. He knelt on the ground, raised his hand, and slapped himself. At this time, Jiang Tian finally looked down and mocked Li Longyuan. Li Longyuan, this battle started because of you. If it weren't for you and the Heavenly Star Palace coveting Earth, I wouldn't have come here. And so many people wouldn't have died. Today, you must die. Kang Te Chu, retribution is not good. You've caused a storm of blood today, and you must suffer retribution. At this time, Li Longyuan knew that he couldn't survive today, so he threw caution to the wind. He grinned, and his blood-stained face was twisted like an evil ghost, miserable and full of resentment. Retribution? Ding Lai stepped forward and kicked his head. He said coldly, why didn't you say retribution when you killed people, set fires, and bullied the good? He kicked him again and shouted angrily. Why didn't you say retribution when you went around killing people and robbing Dharma treasures? How many people have you killed? You even killed a 3-year-old child and your Dharma companion. How many orphans and widows have you left behind? Now, your ending is retribution for your killing in the past. Are you done fighting? Li Longyuan, on the other hand, appeared very calm. You idiots! You don't know the danger that exists now. The Heavenly Star Small World can't hold on any longer. It will collapse in 300 years. I'm not plundering heavenly treasures for myself, but to upgrade to a level 3 small world so that we can have a new place to live. I don't think I did anything wrong. Speaking of which, it's just a case of the winner taking all. Hearing this, Jiang Tian smiled but didn't say anything. There was no need to pay attention to such an idiot. Besides, was he really doing this for Heavenly Star Small World? He was just doing it for himself. Kang Te Chu, don't laugh, don't be so smug. Li Longyuan looked at Jiang Tian mockingly. The Heavenly Star Small World is only a level 4 hidden sect space. There's still a level 3 hidden sect, the Dragon Gate World, many level 2 hidden sects, and the Supreme Immortal Ruins. There are countless golden core cultivators there, and there is no lack of nascent soul and nascent soul cultivators. He laughed out loud and said coldly, there is a spatial shuttling array that leads to the stellar sky domain. They come here to patrol every once in a while. Moreover, they already knew that there was a rising powerhouse on Earth, and they had already decided to kill him. It won't be long before they come here. When that time comes, they will discover your existence and that you have occupied the Heavenly Star Small World. You will die a horrible death. They will crush you like an ant. He roared crazily. Kang Te Chu, Kang Te Chu. Cherish this time because you don't have many days left. When the powerhouses of the immortal ruins come, it will be the day of your death. Ha ha ha. He glanced at the surrounding cultivators fiercely and roared, and all of you, how dare you betray the immortal ruins and submit to an ant from earth? You will be completely punished by the immortal ruins, noisy. Jiang Tian snorted and unleashed his soul-devouring divine sense. It surged out like a black tentacle and swallowed his divine sense. Ow, ow, ow. I can't accept this, I'm a rare genius. I'm a wise ruler. Li Longyuan screamed miserably like a vengeful ghost. Suddenly, his eyes turned white and became dull. His divine sense had been taken away. At the same time, Jiang Tian's body flashed with green light and the swaying divine tree burst out. Green branches reached out like ghostly claws and tore open his dantian, grabbing a golden core that shone with golden light. Pa, pa, pa. Then, he took all the storage artifacts and Dharma treasures and put them into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. Finally, the purple lightning eyes in Jiang Tian's eyes flashed. Two electric pythons as thick as arms surged out and turned Li Longyuan into a piece of charcoal. The entire place was dead silent. Everyone was dumbfounded, and their hearts were heavy. Li Longyuan was dead. Everyone realized that Li Longyuan's era had come to an end. It was completely over. Perfected immortal, we are willing to submit to exalted immortal Jiang and serve him. From now on, the entire stellar sky domain will worship perfected immortal Jiang. We will obey all your orders. You are the ruler of the stellar sky domain, the ruler of this world. Thud. Thud. Taoist Kunling, Yuan Zihua, and Master Kuhai all fell to their knees and kowtowed. When the three supergiants knelt down, the others also reacted with a shudder and kowtowed in unison. Sect leader of the Sky Wolf sect, Chen Qishuan, greets perfected immortal Jiang. We are willing to worship perfected immortal Jiang and become the new ruler of the stellar sky domain. One by one, the sect leaders, city lords, sect leaders, and cultivators fell to their knees. In an instant, it was like wheat being blown down by a hurricane. A moment later, the entire Qingqiu mountain, tens of thousands of cultivators, fell to their knees and bowed, afraid that they would be judged by Jiang Tian if they were too late. Now, Jiang Tian's strength was not something they could fathom. They were in awe of him. He defeated 2 golden core cultivators in a row and forced a nascent soul demon king to submit. Now, apart from the vast ruins of immortality, there were probably not many in the second or third class small worlds who could do anything to him. With such an expert as the ruler of the heavenly star small world, there was no one who would not submit to him. On the mountain peak further away, watching the veteran golden core cultivators, sect leaders, and city lords who could shake the heavenly star small world with a stomp of their feet kneel and submit to Jiang Tian, everyone felt that what they saw today was more exciting than what they had seen in their entire lives. Everyone realized that an era had ended, but a new one had begun. This battle had far-reaching effects and would completely rewrite the history of the stellar sky domain. It would definitely cause huge waves and even affect the entire hidden sect's mystic realm and the structure of the multidimensional worlds. One person suppressing an entire world. I didn't think that he would really succeed. In the crowd, Chu Yunxiu's pretty face was filled with shock and disbelief. She felt that everything was so unreal. Many scenes of her first meeting with Jiang Tian flashed in front of her eyes. Every time Jiang Tian said something bold, she thought it was nonsense. Her impression of this person was getting worse and worse. Because of her preconceived impression that no one in the Earth domain could ever challenge the stellar sky domain, even if Jiang Tian exposed his strength, she firmly believed that Jiang Tian would not win. She first sought refuge with Baizhe and then tried to seek refuge with the stellar sky palace. One wrong step led to many wrong steps. In the end, she completely fell into eternal damnation. At this moment, when she thought of her repeated offenses, she could not help but be horrified. Her face was pale, and the strong regret in her heart rose and fell. Even the 3 rivers and 5 seas could not wash it away. After all, Jiang Tian had just come to this world and was like a rootless duckweed. the first thing he needed was to find allies and supporters. Moreover, Jiang Tian's ultimate goal was the ruins of immortality. Jiang Tian did not want to stay here for long. These supporters would also become Jiang Tian's representatives in this world. The first major force that Jiang Tian went to was the Jade Well Peak. If she had been discerning, she would have a very high status now. She would be second only to one person and above all others. However, her emotions did not last long. Jiang Tian threw a look at her. Quite fresh. This girl, I have been thinking about her for a day or two. The old dragon ran forward and opened its bloody mouth. Amidst her shrill screams, it swallowed her alive. Her death did not even attract the attention of others. After all, she was just a small fry. In the sky far away, Fairy Miao Yi's pretty face was filled with complicated emotions. Her beautiful eyes were filled with indescribable emotions. Shock, joy, regret, bitterness, perhaps a little of all. His lover in the Earth domain. How lucky she is to have the chance to stand side by side with him. However, in the end, her countless emotions all turned into a sigh. This kind of Jiang Tian, who dared to fight 5 perfected immortals and 100 exalted immortals, who could suppress Jiang Tian alone, was not someone she should be delusional about. She was not worthy of him. She threw away all her fantasies and only felt envious. She envied Jiang Tian's lover whom she had never met. This was because not only was Jiang Tian powerful, but he was also not like other cultivators who cut off their emotions and desires in the name of their Tao heart. They were cold and heartless, and they went to the extreme of being excessively promiscuous. Jiang Tian's love for Zhao Xueqing was as deep as the sea. Brother Jiang won. Ding Lingdang was grinning from ear to ear. She cheered and jumped up and down, the bells on her wrists and ankles jingling. We won. We finally won. The cute Xiao Yingluo was so happy that tears streamed down her face. Her voice was choked with sobs. As perfected immortal Zhang's little brother, I should be able to play at Spring Fragrance Brothel for free. Ha! The stinky monkey was so excited that he somersaulted a few times and almost fell off the cliff. Cough, cough. Monkey, don't embarrass yourself, okay? You must be upright at this occasion. Jiang Yunhe coughed lightly to remind him. He was very glad in his heart. Although he and Jiang Tian got to know each other through fighting, he had never betrayed Jiang Tian since then. No way. Come on, pinch me. Let me see if I'm dreaming. Jiang Haishan still couldn't believe it. He knew that he had made the right bet this time. He had made a big profit. Soon, Jiang Tian would definitely clean up a group of people and put a group of people in important positions. But there were too few people who were loyal to Jiang Tian from the beginning to the end, and there were too few people who could be used. He was at least the city lord of a big city. At this time, thousands of sects surrendered, and the Golden Core perfected immortals knelt on the ground. Jiang Tian had his hands behind his back. His eyes swept across the crowd, especially staring at the 3 veteran Golden Cores. Xiao Bai, these 3 veteran Golden Core cultivators used to be your disciples and betrayed you. It's up to you to decide whether to kill or keep them. Jiang Tian said lightly. Bai Zai's face flashed with a few vicissitudes of life and complexity. He seemed to think of the past and was a little angry, but also a little regretful. Finally, he took a deep breath and respectfully clasped his fists. My lord, you are now the master of this continent. This matter should be decided by you. Everything should proceed from the overall situation. Personal grudges are just small matters. Xiao Bai, you have a good view of the overall situation. Jiang Tian patted his shoulder. He had made up his mind, and his sharp eyes fell on the 3 veteran Golden Cores. Chapter 964. He could have killed the 3 Golden Core perfected immortals and absorbed their Golden Cores to improve his cultivation. However, they were not Jiang Tian's sworn enemies, nor were they the masterminds who attacked Earth and plotted against Jiang Tian. Therefore, in the end, Jiang Tian chose not to kill them but to use them temporarily. You want to surrender? Jiang Tian looked at the heavenly star overlords and said, sure. But I don't trust you. You have to sign a divine soul contract with me. Back then, the martial arts families like Qin Zhong had surrendered, but under the coercion of the Heavenly Star Palace, they joined the Heavenly Star domain and became his enemy. Jiang Tian wouldn't make the same mistake twice. We're willing. The 3 golden core perfected immortals agreed without hesitation. The other overlords also bowed and kowtowed. They knew that Jiang Tian's black divine sense was terrifying and powerful. Once they signed a divine soul contract, they would have to submit to Jiang Tian for life. However, they had no other choice at this moment. Swish. 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 Jiang Tian's divine sense burst out and the black sticky soul devourer danced in the air like tentacles. Hundreds of them went into the minds of hundreds of sect masters and city lords, leaving a soul devourer divine sense clone. Leaders of the Heavenly Star Palace and the 3 major sects, come and see me at the Heavenly Star Palace. The other small forces can come and watch the ceremony. There are some things I need to tell you. Jiang Tian stepped into the air and flew to the Heavenly Star Palace. Great Demon Bai Zhe immediately followed. The Heavenly Star Palace was even more magnificent than Qingqiu Mountain. It was like a palace of immortals, dazzling and filled with spirit qi. The next day, in the Arcade Palace, Jiang Tian sat on the dragon throne on the stage like a majestic immortal emperor. He looked down at the audience with disdain. Behind him, Yi Tianren, Bai Zhe, Jiang Haishan, Ding Lai, Ding Lingdang, Qiao Yingluo, Qiao Beishan and Jiang Yunhe stood respectfully. Greetings, perfected immortal Jiang. Greetings, ruler Heaven Star. Below the platform, the leaders of the various sects and city lords, led by the 3 golden core perfected immortals, knelt on the ground nervously and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Many masters of aristocratic families, leaders of gangs, and sects, such as the leaders of the Crushing Sky Mercenaries and Flying Rainbow Bounty Hunters, sighed with emotion in their hearts. Before this, the Starry Sky Palace, the 3 great sects, and the 4 great cities were high and mighty in their hearts. They were like gods that suppressed this continent. And now, those experienced golden core perfected immortals were all worshipping Jiang Tian, which had completely changed their impression of him. Jiang Tian first took out a boat-shaped magical artifact that was dozens of meters long. This is... Everyone was surprised. It was unknown what kind of metal or crystal this boat-shaped magic artifact was made from, but it shone brilliantly and suffused with multicolored light. It was densely covered with Dao markings and talismans, and one could tell with a single glance that it was absolutely not an ordinary item. I found it in Li Longyuan's bedroom. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and snorted coldly. This is a spaceship that Li Longyuan spent countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures to build. All these years, he has plundered this world, but not for the safety of the Heavenly Star's small world. Those flowery words and grand plans were just to fool you all. He wants to leave this world alone and go to the ruins of deity. Or even further away. And you can only stay here and wait for your deaths. Then, Jiang Tian extracted a piece of memory from Li Longyuan's divine soul and displayed it to everyone with the divine art of mental visualization. It was the scene of him and Li Qingxian plotting. In fact, Li Longyuan indeed did not want to completely fix the collapsed array formations. That was just his name. His plan was to take the sect master of the Qingxian sect and leave this continent that was about to collapse. That little bastard. He even fooled me. Before he could even finish reading, Yuan Zihua had already started cursing furiously. Perfected immortal Jiang, what are we going to do with this spaceship? Master Kuhai asked with a smile. Who didn't want to go to the ruins of deity? It was said that it was the real sacred ground for cultivation. Also, this continent could only last for 300 years. After that, it would completely collapse. Jiang Tian also wanted to go to the ruins of deity. Jiang Tian would definitely leave this spaceship behind and wait for the right time to fly to the ruins of deity. Bang! Jiang Tian snapped his fingers and smashed the spaceship into pieces. Many crystals and treasure metals fell to the ground. Perfected immortal Jiang. Why? Everyone exclaimed. Master Kuhai's face was full of regret. Jiang Tian had destroyed their only chance to escape. Why? Don't you understand? A bunch of idiots. Bai Zhe grumbled angrily. Even if this spaceship can be used, how many people can it take? 1, 2. At most 10 people. If we leave, what will happen to the millions of humans and monsters in this world? Wait for death. His eyes were red. He wiped his tears and said, Immortal Master Jiang is telling us with his actions that he wants to rule the heavenly star's small world with everyone and save millions of lives. That's right. Jiang Tian said lightly. We have used up all our resources. If we want to build another spaceship like this, we will need at least 500 years of hard work. I have cut off everyone's hopes. I will also cut off your hopes. Everyone in this continent can only survive if we rule this continent well. Escaping is impossible. I see. Perfected immortal Jiang's breadth of mind and courage is really admirable. The 3 veteran Golden Core cultivators sighed at their inferiority and knelt down one after another, their faces full of reverence. Perfected immortal Jiang, we are willing to work together. We will work together with the humans and monsters to save this world. Everyone was moved to tears and kowtowed one after another. Look at his cultivation level. How could Li Longyuan compare to him? He was a human from the Earth domain, but his breadth of mind was bigger than the Milky Way and the stars. He was concerned about the stellar sky domain. He had the chance to escape, but he didn't. My master's big brother is so black-bellied and shameless. Perhaps this is the requirement to become a dominator. Bai Zhe touched his chin, thinking that perfected immortal Jiang's ability to deceive people was also top-notch. Back then, he had worn his little clothes, and he had not taken them off yet. Now, all the higher-ups of the Heavenly Star's small world were wearing his little clothes. In fact, he and Jiang Tian had discovered this spaceship together. However, based on their rich refining experience, they had come to the same conclusion. The spaceship's materials were not bad, but Li Longyuan's refining skills were average. He had wasted a heavenly treasure and destroyed the spaceship. There was no way to cross space. There was also no possibility of repairing or reusing it. If it was useful, Jiang Tian and Bai Zhe, who had always dreamed of conquering the Sea of Stars, would have been the first to drive it away. It was useless even if Jiang Tian did not destroy it. However, at this time, Jiang Tian combined Li Longyuan's memories and acted like this to win over the hearts of the people. After all, Jiang Tian's soul-devouring technique was not completely unbreakable. Perhaps even a nascent soul-old monster could break it. Only by completely conquering their hearts could he ensure that they would never betray him. Breaking a piece of trash had moved them so much and made them so loyal. Jiang Tian was quite satisfied. Sometimes, the best way was to attack their hearts. Enslavement was from the heart. Earth is the homeland of the ruins of immortals and many hidden sections. 10,000 years ago, we were one family. You all need to respect and be close to us. After Jiang Tian became a dominator, he gave his first order. From now on, you are not allowed to offend Earth at all. You have to protect Earth as your responsibility. Jiang Tian's voice fell. That's right. I strongly opposed it back then and even criticized Li Longyuan many times for attacking Earth. However, I didn't expect that after I went into hibernation, he would still act recklessly. He really deserves to be cut into pieces. Taoist Master Kunling was the first to stand up and express his righteous indignation. We will respect perfected immortal Jiang's order and carry it out unswervingly. Yuan Zihua and Master Kuhai also quickly expressed their opinions. The Sky Palace, the Giant Sword Sect, the Demon Subduing Temple and many other sects came from Monster King Bai Zhe. After all, they belong to the heavenly gods sect. Jiang Tian said slowly. You shouldn't forget your ancestors and betray your sect. You shouldn't fight with the monsters again. From now on, humans and monsters should put aside their differences and guard this continent and millions of people together. The heavenly gods sect will be rebuilt. Bai Zai will be the sect master and many sects in the world will worship him. What do you think? We will follow perfected immortal Zhang's order. We dare not disobey the orders of the heavenly star ruler. No one dared to object and immediately agreed. Chapter 965. Originally, what Jiang Tian said was the truth. In the beginning, under the rule of Demon King Bai Zai, humans and demons coexisted harmoniously without any distinction. The demon race was born with divine strength like a giant miracle god. They were the best at opening up new territories and building new buildings. They once helped the human race to build many huge cities, halls, houses, and canals. As for the human race, although they were weak, they were clever and skilled in farming, weaving, refining pills, making medicine, and making artifacts. Both sides complemented each other, allowing the heavenly star small world civilization to be highly developed. With the emergence of golden cores, it became a third-grade cultivation dimension world. However, for his own benefit, Li Longyuan went against the flow and plotted against Bai Zai. He also deliberately provoked the conflict between the human race and the demon race. Only then did he have the reputation to unify the human race's sects and have the opportunity to centralize the world's power. In fact, this method was not uncommon for any ruler, and they were all very good at it. Using ethnic or racial conflicts to divert internal class conflicts, confuse the people, and achieve the goal of centralization. After that, Jiang Tian changed the entire stellar sky domain's many systems and gave out rewards. According to Jiang Tian's design, the heavenly star small world was divided into two parts, the secular world and the cultivation world. After establishing the stellar sky kingdom, Ding Lai was the emperor to govern and manage the entire secular world and many huge cities. He reduced taxes and raised the status of the commoners. The heavenly god sect was the state religion and governed many sects in the cultivation world. Bai Zai was the state preceptor of the stellar sky kingdom. The many cultivators of the heavenly gods sect were equivalent to a special army that was supported and worshipped by the state. However, they had to take on the responsibility of guarding the secular world. No cultivator was allowed to disturb the secular order. Jiang Tian was the supreme ruler of the heavenly star small world. Bai Zai and Ding Lai had to be loyal to him and be responsible for him. Those who followed Jiang Tian before, including the stinky monkey, were put in important positions and became the city lord of a small city. The great Tao is nothing but the commoner's daily use. Without commoners, there would be no foundation for the cultivation civilization. Cultivation is just a tree without roots. We can invade, occupy, and enslave the outside world. Because this is for survival. The strong are respected. This is the great Tao of heaven and earth. However, within a civilization, the strong cannot bully the weak. Instead, they must fight to protect the weak. He wanted them to have a good life. If we don't let the people live, we will all be useless people. Under the heavens, all living beings who are of the same mind as me are of my race. The demon race may not be evil, and the human race may not be good either. Everything depends on what they say and what they do. Jiang Tian's gaze was sharp, and his words were sincere and heartfelt. He was like an ancient immortal emperor, and his words were sonorous and powerful. At this moment, he displayed the demeanor of a strategically advantageous person. His extraordinarily grand vision was absolutely not something that Li Longyuan's generation could compare to. Cultivators couldn't be high and mighty. Aside from cultivation, they also had to work hard and share the worries of the mortal world. For example, casting spells to change the weather, cultivating cities and residences, and defending against the possible invasion of other small worlds. The heavenly god sect has opened many sects and halls to impart cultivation techniques to the secular world. Everyone can cultivate. The Tao of the saint is to let everyone know. Otherwise, even if it is a heavenly study, it will only be empty talk on paper. Like an ancient emperor, Jiang Tian's brush was like a beam. He wantonly wrote and outlined the grand blueprint of the heavenly star small world. According to Jiang Tian's plan. In the secular world, anyone, as long as their aptitude was qualified and passed the test, would have the opportunity to enter the heavenly god sect. Furthermore, Jiang Tian would work together with Bai Zhe and 3 veteran gold core realm experts to develop a set of basic techniques that everyone could cultivate. In addition, the heavenly gods sect would open up trade channels with other dimensional worlds. They would stabilize the price of residences in the cities, reduce taxes, and realize that everyone would have a residence. They would use refining and foreign trade as the main sources of tribute. These policies had far-reaching effects and brought blessings for hundreds of generations. In the end, Jiang Tian built the stellar sky domain into a superstar with a prosperous cultivation civilization. This period of history, this change in policies, was known as the resurgence of the heavenly god, and the absolute beginning dominator's New Deal. Kang Te-Chu 1. This news swept across the entire heavenly star small world like a hurricane, shocking everyone. The battle at Qingqiu Mountain was earth-shattering. Sword light soared into the sky, and treasure light was dazzling. Actually, many people saw it, especially those in the star capital city. Many people thought that the stellar sky domain would win for sure. They did not expect the winner to be Kang Te-Chu from the earth domain. Kang Te-Chu killed 600 exalted immortals with one sword. Master Ashen Pine, Great Master Shixiang, and other patriarch-level experts have fallen. Heaven's Star War God Shen Tij has fallen. The Master of Heaven's Star Palace, the number 1 person in the stellar sky domain, Gold Core True Immortal Li Longyuan has fallen. The great demon Bai Zhe has appeared and is assisting Jiang Taichu in suppressing the 3 veteran Golden Core experts, ancestral masters. Each piece of news was more shocking than the last. It was like a heavy hammer that slammed into everyone's heart, making it hard for them to breathe. Whether it was the lower-class commoners, martial artists, low-class cultivators, or the patriarchs of aristocratic families, they all felt that the sky was falling. Li Longyuan's policy of fooling the people was well done. Many people believed in him as if he was a god. Especially when Jiang Tian had killed the eminent monks of the demon-suppressing temple, everyone felt that Jiang Tian was a demon. However, most of them just looked on coldly and even set off firecrackers to celebrate. Li Longyuan weakened the world and plundered endlessly, causing the people to have no way to make a living. However, if there was resistance, he would brutally suppress it. No matter how ruthless Kang Te-Chu was and how he had killed the people of the demon-suppressing temple, had he ever killed a single commoner. Following that, Jiang Tian's many new policies were passed down. However, many people were dumbfounded and then overjoyed. The first was to reduce burdens and taxes. Many hard labor was abolished, allowing the farmers to have their own fields. Many people without cultivation were so grateful that tears streamed down their faces. They praised him as a wise man and kowtowed in the direction of the Stellar Sky Palace. The second was a truce between the human race and the demon race. They would build a giant city and live in harmony with each other. The demon race was extremely powerful and had deep magic power. They helped the human race to farm and draw water. They built many cheap residences and allowed the cultivators to have their own houses. Following that, the large sects were open to the lower class and middle class people. Anyone could cultivate. Even more, everyone could speak freely. Anyone could give advice on the policies of the Stellar Sky Kingdom and even criticize and abuse them. The new policies were passed down one after another. It was simply earth-shattering and overturned everyone's understanding. People had never thought that the world could be like this. So, I am also a living person. So, the air of freedom is so comfortable. Jiang Tian quickly gained the most widespread support from the public. He was praised as the first wise ruler of the Stellar Sky domain since ancient times, and the first ruler. After the 10,000 immortals came to an end, Jiang Tian dealt with some aftermath matters and prepared to return to Earth. These days, He missed Qing'er and Ling''er all the time. He missed the warm feeling of stroking the little life in Qing'er's belly. However, before he left, Jiang Tian called the great demon Bai Zhe and the 3 veteran Golden Core Realm cultivators and gave them some instructions. Master, I don't want to be a state preceptor. I really want to travel the Sea of Stars. Demon King Bai Zhe grumbled with a face full of resentment. Little Bai, you don't know how lucky you are. It's so good to be a state preceptor. Everyone respects you. If you don't want to be one, I will. The old dragon glared at him and said. Forget it. Jiang Tian attacked him. You still can't transform into a human form. At least in terms of feelings, the human race is very repulsed by you. A dog jumping up and down all day and calling immortals ancestor. Is that appropriate? Master, you are making me feel awkward. I am also very awe-inspiring when I transform into a dragon. The old dragon wanted to cry but had no tears. He frowned in embarrassment. Stop joking. Jiang Tian frowned and said seriously, Bai Zhe, I'm afraid you will really have to stay here for a few years. Because I've observed the broken array formations of Red Thunder Mountain. It will take at least 3 years to repair them. You can still repair them. Bai Zhe couldn't believe it. Next to him, the 3 veteran Golden Core Realm cultivators were also shocked. Back then, Bai Zhe had led many great demons, sect masters and city lords to repair the array formations, but they died in the turbulence of energy instead. Slowly, they lost this idea. Those array formations appeared in the hands of the ancient grand cultivators 10,000 years ago or even 1,000,000 years ago. They were too complicated and too ingenious. Of course. Jiang Tian said. Although it is damaged to a certain extent, the array foundation and frame are still there. You only need to repair the broken parts to stabilize the gravity, balance the spirit qi and stop the poisonous aura from erupting. After the repairs are done, we will conquer the ruins of deity together and embark on the path of stars to conquer the Sea of Stars. Okay. That's great. With your ability, I will definitely follow you as my master. Bai Zhe was overjoyed. It was a double blessing. Of course, Bai Zhe wanted to conquer the Sea of Stars and embark on the ancient path of stars. However, after all, he was the ancestor of all demons and still had a lot of feelings for his people. He couldn't leave and watch the continent collapse and thousands of humans and demons die unnatural deaths after he left. Jiang Tian moved his immortal will and immediately, a huge amount of information flowed into the minds of Bai Zhe and the 3 veteran Golden Core Realm cultivators. This information included the original design and construction drawings of many giant arrays, as well as the current state of the array formations, the subsequent repair methods and the required materials. If it was printed in a book, it would probably have thousands of pages. This information was so huge that ordinary people couldn't bear it at all. However, Bai Zhe and the others were powerful enough to handle it. After the information transmission was completed, Bai Zhe looked through it in his mind, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He was so excited that his whole body trembled, and he sighed with admiration. I see. Master, your array formation skills are so profound. I'm convinced. I'm completely convinced this time. I admit defeat. Chapter 966. This, true immortal Jiang, your attainments in the art of formations are so profound. It's simply a stroke of genius. Look at this part of the array foundation, replacing the power of the 5 elements with the power of the 9 heavenly stars, and then. Yes, he's far more powerful than us. We can only look up to a high mountain, but we can't see his back. Our heavenly star small world is saved. The 3 veteran Golden Core cultivators admired Jiang Tian to the extreme. They were so excited that their hands trembled violently and tears even ran down their cheeks. This continent was forcibly separated from Earth by the grand cultivators of the ancient Earth. The arrays were also created by the grand cultivators of the ancient times. The sect master of the heavenly god was only a latecomer and had not yet been born. Compared with those grand cultivators of the ancient times, he was probably too far behind. Therefore, this set of arrays was so advanced, complex and magnificent that even the sect master of the heavenly god couldn't fix it and couldn't understand it. Not to mention Baizé. In order to resist the invasion of foreign civilizations, the sect master of the heavenly god had damaged many arrays. Baizé had also tried to repair this array with many array masters, but they were almost torn to pieces by the chaotic power in the array. But Jiang Tian had only glanced at the periphery of the array for a few times and saw the problem clearly. The solution was perfect. According to my observation, there are arrays that lead directly to the ruins of immortality in the ruins of the heavenly god sect. And the ruins of immortality should have ancient star roads that lead to many cultivation planets in the outer regions. Jiang Tian said. So, you should fix these broken arrays, especially the teleportation arrays inside, to pave the way for us. Everyone, do your best. Understood. I'll definitely do my best. Baizé was about to leave in a hurry. Then let's stop chatting. Master, you go back to Earth to see Mistress. I'm going to get busy. He had always been so impetuous. The 3 veteran Golden Core cultivators were embarrassed. Don't panic. Jiang Tian glared at him and said, in fact, I have a question for you. Please ask, Master. I'll tell you everything I know. The 3 veteran Golden Core cultivators said. What did Earth experience back then? Why would there be so many hidden sex-dimensional spaces? A moment later, Jiang Tian asked the question that had been bothering him for a long time. The 3 veteran Golden Core cultivators looked at each other, speechless. Didn't I tell you? Baizé scratched his head and sighed helplessly. When I was born, this continent had already formed. How would I know? Even the leader of the heavenly god sect didn't experience the formation of the heavenly star small world. But you are already an old monster with the longest lifespan. Moreover, you are the ruler of an era. Ol Long rolled his eyes and said with a frown. I'm afraid you know far more than the 3 true immortals of the Gold Core realm and Li Longyuan and the other sect leaders. If Master doesn't ask you, should he ask them? Alright. I'll talk. Baizé said, but what I know is only the legends passed down from the generation of the heavenly god sect master. They didn't experience it personally, so I can't guarantee whether it's true or not. According to the legends passed down from the stellar sky domain, the ancient Earth was more than 10 times the size of the present. The spirit chi was rich, and it was a cultivation planet. At that time, there were cultivators who were like gods. They could fly in the sky and travel through the earth. They had the ability to turn land into rivers and move mountains and seas. There were large demonic beasts that were as big as mountains. Some of them were ferocious, and some of them were tamed by humans and were docile and well-behaved. At that time, the spirit chi on earth was like rain and fog. The spirit spring was like a big river with 1,000 feet waterfall. All kinds of big herbs and spirit herbs were everywhere. On the famous mountains and rivers, there were many nascent soul realm cultivators and even higher-level cultivators guarding the place. There were also alien races from the outer domain who settled down on Earth. Even ordinary people had a lifespan of 200 to 300 years. It was a glorious era with bright lights and shining stars. Pill refinement, equipment refinement, talismans, formations, the martial Dao, cultivation, demonic arts, devil arts, and various other Daos of cultivation blossomed at the same time. They were vast and profound, and they'd arrived at an unbelievable height. Sure enough, it's not far from what I guessed. When he heard this, a hint of seriousness appeared on Jiang Tian's face, and the light in his eyes flickered. However, it's an indisputable fact that the spirit chi on Earth is drying up. Why is that? The spirit chi of a planet drying up was extremely rare even in the cultivation world. It was because of the law of conservation of spirit chi. Even if cultivators crazily absorbed spirit chi, their bones, blood, and even the Dharma treasures and immortal artifacts they refined would be decomposed by the laws of heaven and earth and turned back into spirit chi. There's a saying in the stellar sky domain. The drying up of spirit chi on Earth is not a natural disaster, but a man-made disaster. Demon King Baizé took a deep breath and said something shocking. What? A man-made disaster? Who can cause the spirit chi on Earth to dry up? Yi Tianren exclaimed. Even Yuan Zihua and the other two experienced golden core cultivators were shocked. They couldn't believe it. According to Baizé's explanation, after ancient Earth developed a brilliant cultivation civilization, the spirit chi of ancient Earth suddenly began to decline abruptly, rapidly weakening. Even the prehistoric super mighty figures who set up the heavenly cycle star array to attract the spirit chi from the depths of the universe to the ancient Earth couldn't stop the process of decline. In the end, hundreds of giants and mighty figures finally found and confirmed that the spirit chi on Earth wasn't dissipating to the outer space, but to the inner space of the ancient Earth. It was as if there was a gigantic ancient beast living in the inner space of the ancient Earth. It was swallowing the sky and the earth, drinking the spirit chi and drinking the spirit spring. It was like a whale sucking in water, trying to absorb all the spirit chi on Earth. In order to find out the truth, hundreds of ancient mighty figures with unfathomable cultivation levels used digging and earth escape techniques. They pushed tens of thousands of meters deep into the inner space of the ancient Earth and exhausted hundreds of ancient mighty figures to death. Finally, they got close to the culprit. However, they were shocked to find that it wasn't a living thing at all, but a rare treasure. In short, it's a Dharma artifact that can swallow spirit chi. It's trying to absorb all the spirit chi on Earth. At this moment, Baizé's handsome face was gloomy and heavy, and his eyes were slightly opened while his gaze was horrified as he spoke in a low voice. This is too unbelievable. Even Yuan Zihua and the others next to him exclaimed. Their faces turned pale and their eyes widened. Using a magic tool to absorb the spirit chi of a huge planet, this was simply a method of the gods, just like a primordial myth. Not even thousands of nascent soul cultivators would be able to resist such a powerful Dharma artifact, let alone golden core cultivators. At this time, even Heavenly Yi was moved. Nobody had thought that there would be such a terrifying being in the universe that had encountered the ancient Earth. Only Jiang Tian was calm. In his previous life, after he entered the divine realm, he had seen a supreme being swallow a planet and shatter a planet region with a finger. There was once a grand cultivator known as the Devourer. He hadn't reached the level of a deity yet, but he could create a giant Dharma artifact in the shape of a tire and swallow a planet, including the spirit chi of the continents and oceans. The invaders of the ancient Earth were able to send a Dharma artifact that could destroy a planet's spirit chi into the depths of the planet without the grand cultivators above the nascent soul level knowing. But at the end of the day, it was still in the category of the deity realm, it hadn't reached the level of a divine level civilization. In Jiang Tian's previous life, he had already seen too much. The Dharma artifact that swallowed the core of the ancient Earth was called Planet Destroyer by the ancestors of the ancient Earth. Baizé slowly calmed down and continued. The ancestors speculated that Planet Destroyer should have come from a civilization of a higher level. This civilization wanted to use the spirit chi of the entire planet to increase their level or improve the performance of Planet Destroyer to make a super deity artifact or divine artifact. Everyone was shocked again. Using the spirit chi of an entire planet to make a Dharma artifact. How magnificent was that? It was like the deities of the ancient times who could carry the sun and the moon on their shoulders, carry the stars on their backs, step on the eternal sky and move the universe. Such a civilization would definitely be able to move mountains and fill oceans. They could even pick up the stars and the moon, break through the chaos of the void and carry out interstellar travel. Jiang Tian nodded slowly and said casually. It's indeed possible to make a deity artifact with the spirit chi of the entire ancient Earth. But maybe it was for something else. Jiang Tian frowned and thought of many other possibilities. Because of the existence of a super civilization, the entire human world was immediately divided into several factions. Baizé said. The faction that welcomed the arrival of the super civilization, the resistance army, that resisted the super civilization, the salvation faction, that improved the level of the ancient Earth, the escape faction, that ran away without fighting, and so on. Many factions from the east and the west, the demon race, the human race, the deities, and even the foreign races started a great war on the ancient earth. Heads were rolling, corpses were piled up like mountains, blood flowed like rivers, mountains and rivers collapsed, and countless nascent soul cultivators and golden core cultivators fell like rain. This period of history was called the Battle of the Deities in the East, and the Twilight of the Gods in the West. But in the end, only the escape faction succeeded. Yes. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, not surprised at all. Because there was indeed no decent cultivation civilization on earth at the moment. Even the Holy See, the Brahmin and the reclusive royalty had probably cut off the inheritance of ancient cultivation, or kept part of their orthodoxy. But in general, from the perspective of the universe, the cultivation civilization on Earth was already very low-level and crude. Whether it was killing each other, running out of resources, or the invasion of the super-civilization in the end, the arrival faction and the resistance army failed. The escape faction disguised themselves as the resistance army. They have a history of hundreds or even thousands of years. They built many arrays at the bottom of the continent, saying that if the super-civilization invaded, they would blow up the entire continent and perish together with the invaders. Bai Zhe heaved a sigh and said slowly. But in the end, before the invaders of the super-civilization came, they pushed the continent out of the gravitational range of the ancient Earth with the super-arrays and embarked on a long interstellar journey. Everyone was stunned for a long time. Their hearts were filled with mixed feelings, shock, fascination, and regret. Although Bai Zhe's narration was very simple, everyone could feel how tragic and stirring that period of history was. In order to survive and to continue the fire of the human race on Earth in the ancient Earth fought, pretended to be polite, or worked hard to cultivate. Heroes rose together and the strong came out together. Because of different ideas, conflicts broke out and formed an era of great competition. But in the end, the stars fell to the earth, and only the escape faction succeeded. It was a pity. Chapter 967. Some continents created dimensional space arrays when the energy of the Space Travel Advancement Array was exhausted. They completely hid and formed many dimensional worlds such as the stellar sky domain. Some continued to escape as far as possible. It is even said that the ruins of immortality have reached a new star system. The ruins of immortality have reached a new star system. Where is it? Upon hearing this, Jiang Tian's pupils constricted as he asked. Celestial Leaf also had a nervous look on his face. His fists were clenched tightly and trembling slightly. The location of the ruins of immortality, the secret that the human race on Earth had been searching for thousands of years, was finally about to be revealed. The ancient sages called it the twin stars of the southern gate. Bai Zhe enunciated each word clearly. What? This time, Yi Tianren exclaimed. Even Jiang Tian's expression changed drastically. The so-called twin stars of the southern gate were the two brightest stars in the Centaurus constellation. Of course, stars were gaseous planets that contained violent energy. It was impossible for humans to live on them. The information obtained by Bai Zhe was not accurate, or rather, it was not very accurate. The ruins of immortality should be on one of the planets around the three stars in the Centaurus constellation. Jiang Tian and Bai Zhe exclaimed because in terms of the universe's dimension, the Centaurus constellation was the closest star system to Earth. It was only 4.2 light-years away. On Earth today, many scientific research institutions of the major countries in the world had been looking for extraterrestrial civilizations and alien life forms. However, no one would have thought that there was life on the closest star system to Earth. Moreover, it had the same ancestor as the human race on Earth. Not only did the escapees successfully escape, but they also set up arrays to absorb spirit chi on every continent to compete with Star Destroyer for the spirit chi of ancient Earth. Moreover, they succeeded. Bai Zhe said. Every dimensional world contains a huge amount of spirit chi. They were on par with Star Destroyer and preserved part of the ancient cultivation tradition. Jiang Tian pondered for a while, raised his eyebrows, and asked, is Star Destroyer still on Earth? I heard that he is. Bai Zai said. After Star Destroyer entered the core of ancient Earth, he used up all his spirit chi and energy. Only by absorbing enough spirit chi from ancient Earth could new energy be born and leave Earth. However, the escapees used dimensional continents to take away the spirit chi. Star Destroyer couldn't obtain enough energy, so he fell into a deep slumber in the Earth's core. I see. I'm afraid this is also the origin of the legend of the spiritual energy revival seed. Jiang Tian said. The so-called hidden sex-dimensional world that allowed Earth to recuperate was actually waiting for star destruction to fall into a deep slumber and even lose contact with its master. As for the spirit chi recovery seed, it was actually the crystallization of the spirit chi array that the escapees had absorbed. Once it was implanted into the current Earth, it would trigger the recovery of spirit energy. Jiang Tian used his soul devourer to quickly grind away the spiritual consciousness imprint in Li Longyuan's storage bag. As expected, the spirit chi recovery seed is the crystallization of the array formation. Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and his pupils shrank slightly. Inside, there was a crystal-clear seed that was emitting boundless spiritual energy. It looked like a jujube pit. Bai Zai continued. After the escapees escaped from ancient Earth, it was said that alien races from outer space frantically invaded Earth. The races of the invaders were very complicated. There were demons and demons. They crossed the universe and came here. They were extremely powerful and cruel. They carried out cruel massacres and extermination policies on Earth's cultivators, cutting off the entire human cultivation civilization. By the way, do you know of an existence called the superbrain human? Jiang Tian thought of the superbrain human race he met in the United States and described their characteristics. He wanted to know the role they played in this dispute. After Jiang Tian finished, Bai Zai pondered for a while and said, according to the Holy Heaven's sex master, during the period when Earth's cultivation civilization was at its peak, many cultivation planets came to live on Earth and lived in harmony with the human race. The superbrain human race should be one of the many races that lived on Earth. There were also the Holy Light clan, the Parasitic clan, the Dark Blood clan, the Moon-worshipping Wolf clan, and so on. There were dozens of them. But later, these alien races that stayed on Earth resisted the invasion together with the human race. They were also slaughtered to the last. Of course, the Holy Light clan, the Parasitic clan, and so on were not completely wiped out. Because the escapees at that time were not only the powerhouses of the ancient Huaxia, but also the Western Holy Light clan and the Parasitic clan of ancient Tianzhu. They also created their own dimensional worlds. The dimensional world of the Holy Light clan is called Heavenly State. The highest authority there is called the Holy Church. The dimensional world of the Parasitic clan is called Westland. The most influential sect is called Thunder Mountain. Heavenly State, Holy Church, Westland, Thunder Mountain. Jiang Tian frowned and said, these are all recorded in the Holy See and Brahmin books. They are the places they cultivate and pursue. As far as I know, the Holy See and Brahmin are only the forces they support on Earth. Bai Zai pondered for a while and said, just like how the small worlds like Tianqing, Lansang, and Chiye from the ancient Huaxia like to support dynasties on Earth, the various dimensional worlds have not given up their control of Earth. How many royal families have you supported? Jiang Tian asked in surprise. The Li family of the Tang dynasty and the Nurhasai family of the Qing dynasty were all supported by the dragon veins of the stellar sky domain. Yuan Zihua smiled lightly and said, that's right. In fact, my father, Yuan Tiangang, was also sent by the ruler of the stellar sky domain to assist the Li family. Otherwise, he would not have been able to return to the stellar sky domain. The Kanglan, Chia, Dragon Gate, and other dimensional worlds should have supported many other dynasties as well. However, we don't know which dynasties they are. Because everyone is fighting for control of Earth, waiting for the arrival of the spirit chi revival. It can't be. Yi Tianren felt as if his head was about to explode. It turned out that the few dimensional worlds closest to Earth had controlled the change of dynasties in the Middle Ages of the Huaxia. True immortal Jiang, if Daoist Yi has read the history books of the Earth domain, you should know that when the emperors of the Hua Xia were born, there would be many strange phenomena. Yuan Zihua smiled mysteriously and said, in fact, it was caused by the powerful beings of the dimensional worlds. Although this statement was unbelievable, Yi Tianren felt that it was not all nonsense when combined with the historical legends. For example, Liu Bang, the ancestor of the Han dynasty, his mother was resting beside the Great Lake. Suddenly, lightning flashed, and a dragon coiled around her body. After that, Liu Bang was born. When Emperor Wen of the Sui dynasty, Yang Jian, was born, purple clouds filled the sky, and a divine nun came from the east side of the river. She said, "This child has always been strange and should not be associated with the secular world." Mother Yang suddenly saw a horn on Yang Jian's head and scales all over his body. Mother Yang was shocked and dropped Yang Jian to the ground. The divine nun said, "You have already frightened my son and ordered me to rule the world." Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang's mother, Madame Chen, once dreamed that the gods gave her a pill. She placed it in her palm and swallowed it. When Zhu Yuanzhang was born, the room was filled with red light. When the neighbors saw it, they were shocked and thought that it was a fire. They hurried to save her, but when they arrived, they found that there was no fire. Such things were too numerous to mention. They were all written clearly in the official history and could be verified. However, Yi Tianren previously thought that the historians were deliberately beautifying the history in order to protect the feudal rule. But he did not expect that it was all true. Some of these descendants of the imperial family came from the dimensional worlds or the natives of the earth world. They were chosen and supported to rise. Yuan Zihua took out a simple and unadorned bronze token and presented it with both hands solemnly. He said respectfully, "This is my first time meeting you." Now, their descendants in Huaxia still exist. They are known as the reclusive royalty, and they are also a considerable force. This disciple has a token called the Human Emperor's Token. There is only one in many small worlds. It represents the jurisdiction of the small world over the imperial family of the earth world. It can command all the reclusive royalty in Huaxia. Jiang Tian also had an indifferent attitude. He took the token and put it into the storage ring. The imperial family of the earth world is nothing strange. They are just ants. There is no need to pay attention to them. Bai Zhe waved his hand and continued. Now, the immortal ruins have been away from the earth for tens of thousands of years, or even longer. Many masters guarding the small worlds deliberately cut off the connection between the ancient earth and the immortal ruins and destroyed the ancient starry sky road to prevent the people of the earth world from ascending to the immortal ruins or being discovered and invaded by masters from other regions. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Just like 1,000 years ago, when the devil race had invaded the stellar sky domain, the heavenly god's sect master had directly destroyed the teleportation array with a single sword strike. That was to cut off the passage for the devil race to enter the ruins of immortality. It could be said to be extremely fierce. How many of these spiritual chi recovery seeds are there? Jiang Tian took out the juju pit-like seed and smiled. This is the only one in the heavenly star small world, but I am afraid that other dimensional worlds have one or even several of them. Bai Zhe rubbed his hands like a fly. He smiled and said, "If I can swallow this spiritual chi recovery seed, I am afraid it will be very useful." You are right. The spiritual chi contained in this seed is comparable to the total amount of the entire heavenly star world. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and smiled. It is not an exaggeration to say that with this seed, you can push to the nascent soul realm or even higher. Chapter 968. Jiang Tian shook his head and said, "I don't intend to devour it. But I'm not going to devour him. He came from ancient earth, so he should be returned to earth." Return to earth? Are you really going to revive the spirit chi? Bai Zhe exclaimed. Wouldn't that be what the ruins of immortality want? I'm afraid they'll attack Earth sooner. Do you think they won't occupy Earth if the spirit chi doesn't revive? Jiang Tian chuckled. They'll first enslave the human race on Earth and then revive the spirit chi to make it suitable for their cultivation and residence. By then, the human race on Earth will be their slaves. But it's different if I actively revive the spirit chi on Earth. You know, even if the ruins of immortality have interstellar teleportation arrays that are as fast as the speed of light, it will take years or even longer to reach Earth. During this time, I'll fight all the small worlds of the major hidden sects and seize dozens of spirit chi revival seeds, which will be enough to revive the spirit chi on Earth. By then, there will be tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of cultivators on Earth, which will be enough to compete with the ruins of immortality. Sweep through all the major hidden sects' dimensional worlds. When Bai Zhe heard that, he could not help but be fascinated. He was impassioned and his heart was in turmoil. This is almost the same as conquering the Sea of Stars. It's really exciting. Qing'er had been pregnant for several months and Jiang Tian was very anxious to return home. In the next few days, Jiang Tian hurriedly went to many large cities and sects to win people's hearts. He also plundered all the endless heavenly treasures into the sky-devouring demon gourd. Hundreds and thousands of years-old herbs were piled up like mountains. Spirit stones and crystal stones were dozens of square meters. In addition, there were dozens of Dharma treasures of various spirit treasures. This time, Jiang Tian entered the Sky Star Dimension world and gained more than 4 or 5 years on Earth. Jiang Tian could be said to have gained a lot and returned with a full load. In fact, during this process, Jiang Tian also found several great herbs, demon cores and spirit stones that could transform a fire elemental constitution, but Jiang Tian didn't transform them easily. This was because even if the transformation was successful, it wouldn't be the strongest fire elemental divine body that Jiang Tian wanted to achieve. Jiang Tian wouldn't convert it easily. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult for him to reform the fire element divine body in the future. Jiang Tian's goal was to use the 9 divine bodies to create a supreme golden core. One had to know that even golden cores were divided into different grades. Inferior golden cores could only withstand 1 or 2 lightning tribulations. However, for a high-quality golden core, after entering the pseudo-golden core stage, when the golden core was condensed, the primal core would begin to be refined. When the primal core was condensed to the extreme, it would trigger a thunder tribulation or even many other kinds of tribulations. Not only would there be heavenly lightning, earthly fire, wind blades and frost swords, there would even be inner demon tribulation. Through such continuous tempering, after going through countless difficulties and dangers, the golden core was finally formed. Moreover, it was an immortal, indestructible golden core. The quality of the golden core was divided into 9 grades from low to high. Every 3 minor grades were further divided into 3 major grades, lower, middle, and upper. Even in the cultivation world, those who could condense a middle-grade golden core were rare existences, let alone superior-grade golden cores. Basically, they were the outstanding talents of large sects or the elites of ancient sacred grounds. For example, Li Longyuan, Shen Tij, and the others were only first-grade and second-grade golden cores, but they could already control a city and dominate an entire world. The golden core that Jiang Tian wanted to nurture was a transcendent-grade golden core that surpassed superior grade. A sacred-grade golden core might not be born even once in millions of years. It could be said that 1 in a billion golden cores was 1 in a billion. However, only this kind of 1 in a million golden cores could ultimately reach the Mahayana stage at the fastest speed and with the highest probability of ascending to immortality, or even becoming a deity and reaching a higher level of life. At that time, even if Jiang Tian was only at the first-grade golden core realm, he could still kill nascent soul realm powerhouses with a wave of his hand. Fine work came out of slow work. This matter could not be rushed. In his previous life, Jiang Tian's Taoist heart was unstable and he was eager for instant success. He only managed to condense a middle-grade golden core, relying on his great wisdom and perseverance to break through the obstacles and reach the Mahayana stage after countless tribulations. In this life, of course, Jiang Tian would take fewer detours and condense a transcendent-grade golden core when he was still at the pseudo-core stage. After that, Jiang Tian refused to be escorted by the magnates. He took the teleportation array pestle that he had snatched from Li Longyuan and went to a teleportation array in the Starry Sky Palace. He traveled through space with Yi Tianren and the old dragon and embarked on the journey back home. When Jiang Tian embarked on the journey back home, he did not know that the world of Earth had undergone earth-shaking changes. First, a European overlord in medieval armor suddenly appeared in the cultivation world of Huaxia with a long spear in his hand and challenged the major martial arts families. The strength of this European overlord was unfathomable. Those martial arts families and sect leaders were like fragile babies in front of him. Clang! In Yi Gufeng's villa in the East China Sea. He hit Qiu Gong and made him spurt out blood. He crashed into a Roman pillar and crashed into the villa. Yi Gufeng and the other elites of Jiangbei glared at the European overlord angrily. The man was holding a black spear. He was brawny and didn't use the spear. Instead, he only extended a finger. Too weak. Even I, Saint Augu, can't block a single finger. The brawny man was handsome, but his curly blonde hair made him look wild and unruly. He shook his head with disdain. I heard that you were taught by Kang Te-chu and can be considered half of his disciple. Is that all you've got? Qiu Gong covered his chest. His flesh was torn and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. He was terrified. If he hadn't been wearing the Dharma artifact that Jiang Tian had given him, he would have been dead. However, he was a member of Jiang Tian's circle after all. He couldn't embarrass Jiang Tian. Even though he wasn't as powerful as the man, his presence wasn't weak. His battle intent surged as he said coldly, "This old man is indeed no match for you. I admit defeat. But Master Kong is the most powerful overlord on earth. His Dharma power is unfathomable and his divine powers are unpredictable. How dare you challenge him?" Yi Gufeng also stepped forward and said fiercely, "Sir, please leave your name. My Tianqing sect will definitely get back at you for this. We will avenge you. I don't mind telling you." The brawny European man said coldly. "I am the last adjudicator of the Vatican City's Holy See, the tomb keeper of the Holy See's tomb, Saint Ogu." The Holy See. Yi Gufeng was startled and his face paled. It was one of the oldest sects on the Blue Planet. To be able to be on par with the Kunlun sect of the Taoist ancestral court of China and the Brahmins of India, they had a deep foundation and were incomparably powerful. Then, he forced himself to calm down and said coldly, "The heroes of the Tianqing school have no grudge against the Holy See. Why do you keep on provoking us? Kang Te-chu is the demon of the East. He once massacred the secular world of Europe, killing thousands of people and destroying hundreds of European noble families. The European Union couldn't do anything about him, so the Holy See had to do something about it." Saint Ogu said coldly. He looked arrogant and his eyebrows were raised to the sky. "You seem to have misunderstood." Yi Gufeng was a political and business figure. He valued cooperation and win-win results. Even though he had joined the Tianqing school for a while, he still adhered to this principle. He softened his tone and said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "Mr. Jiang killed in Europe because those people supported the gathering of darkness and worked with the werewolves and the kindred to endanger the world. And the gathering of darkness was once the mortal enemy of the Holy See. Both sides have the same enemy and should be allies to guard the world together. In the Swiss Alps, in the treasury of the Gathering of Darkness, Kang Te-chu killed many of our missionaries and paladins in order to seize the treasures that originally belonged to the Holy See." Saint Ogu's handsome face was full of murderous intent as he said coldly, "He's just a mortal. How dare he provoke us? Does he really think that the Holy See is easy to bully? The Holy See will wipe out the Tianqing school and announce to the world who is the real orthodoxy of this world. You've all sinned by following the demon of the East, Kang Te-chu. Now kneel down and surrender, leave the Tianqing school, worship the Holy See, become faithful believers, and sincerely repent before the true God. Then, I'll spare your lives. You want us to betray the Tianqing school and join the Holy See? Dream on." Zhou Zhenghao stepped forward and said angrily. Do you think you can provoke immortal Master Jiang? Do you think you can provoke the Tianqing school? That's the pillar of Sidoni. Ah how, you shut up. Don't be impulsive. Ye Gufeng wanted to stop him, but he couldn't. In Ye Gufeng's view, the other side already had the upper hand and there was no need to argue with them. But in Zhou Zhenghao's eyes, Jiang Tian was a deity that couldn't be blasphemed. The Tianqing school was the strongest backing that couldn't be provoked or shaken. Bastard! The Tianqing school will get back at you. Just wait for immortal Master Zhang's revenge. Zhou Zhenghao pushed Ye Gufeng away and took a few steps forward. He said indignantly, the Holy See. The Judgment Department? Compared to immortal Master Jiang, they're just trash. The Tianqing school will trample the Holy See, puff. Suddenly, the spear pierced through Zhou Zhenghao's chest and blood spurted out. Zhou Zhenghao fell into a pool of blood and slowly closed his eyes. Your Excellency, don't you think you are too cruel? Ye Gufeng's body trembled with anger. Everyone was shocked. Zhou Zhenghao was not a good person since he started a gang. He had committed many murders and arson. But there was one thing, he was loyal and devoted to Jiang Tian, and he was also very loyal to his brothers, not holding back at all. Yet now, he was actually killed with a raise of his hand. Everyone was shocked and angry. Killing him is just the beginning. It's just an appetizer. Saint Augustine smiled coldly and said, Kang Techu. You're just an ant. I'm going to provoke the Tianqing school. Saint Augustus's face was cold. He stepped on the black spear and turned into a ray of black light. He must be at least a saint, if not an immortal state warrior. No wonder he could destroy my Dharma artifact. Mr. Yi, report this to the Tianqing school. Qiu Gong pressed his chest and said anxiously. Then, Saint Augustus defeated Hua Xia and showed that his power was beyond Qiu Gong's estimation. He was a saint king. He was equivalent to an earth-level deity in the East. Almost all of the famous martial arts clans and sects had been trampled on by him. Chapter 969. Clang. Shenong School. Saint Haogu unleashed his prowess and pierced Zhuo Zimu's chest with his spear, turning Zhuo Zimu into a rain of flesh. Shenong School was now a branch of Tianqing School's alchemy hall. Therefore, Saint Haogu showed no mercy. When Shen Mange arrived, Saint Haogu had already plundered many heavenly treasures and left. Ancient Wudang Training Hall. Tang Linglong, who was overseeing this place, fought with Saint Haogu for 2 hours without a victor being decided. In the end, Saint Haogu killed a few elders to vent his anger and left calmly. Hua Xia's martial arts are extremely crude and can't even withstand a single blow. It can't be compared to the sacred arts of the Holy See. Saint Augustus roared loudly in public, feeling pleased with himself. If Kang Techu hadn't killed sect master Chen Anping and many seniors and destroyed our ancient Wudang's legacy, we might not have lost to this bastard. A young Taoist boy collected the corpses and wiped his tears. Shut up, you bastard. Elder Dongsun glared at him and roared. Tang Linglong's combat power was no less than Chen Anping's. The martial arts that Jiang Tian taught ancient Wudang were immortal arts that were far superior to ancient Wudang's legacy. However, they had learned martial arts before and needed time to convert it into immortal arts. They were in a state where they couldn't catch up. Moreover, Saint Haogu was too strong. Tang Linglong slashed his chest, but the wound healed in the blink of an eye as a sacred light spread out. He didn't seem to have a mortal body and bloodline. If Kang Techu doesn't come out, I'll wipe out Hua Xia's sect and Tianqing School's training halls in Hua Xia. Saint Haogu said boldly. Then, he went to Mount Zhongnan and challenged Chuanjin's sect of Danding sect. Legend has it that the descendants of the true god of the Holy See have already transcended their mortal bodies from the Holy Tomb. We can't fight them head-on. They want to seize control of this world before the recovery of spirit qi. Fight for power and profit in the ruins of immortality. Upon hearing the news, Qiu Xuanji's face turned grave and he was alarmed. He activated the mountain protection formation and shut himself in. Qiu Xuanji loved to study ancient books and records the most, and he managed to find bits and pieces from the vast records. The heavenly god that the Holy See worshipped had participated in the Battle of Immortals. He might be an alien race from the outer space. There were still some old monsters sleeping in the Holy See's tomb. At the end of the day, this thing came from the outer space. It was a creature from ancient Earth and was not much different from an alien. Hiding inside like a coward, do you think I can't do anything to you? I'll break your turtle shell. But when Saint Aogu arrived, he let out a thunderous roar. The dragon-like sound waves bombarded the Chuanjin training hall, causing it to shake violently like a thatched hut in a storm. Many windows, wooden doors, glass, and trees were instantly turned into dust. Rocks flew through the air and the earth shook. But Qiu Xuanji ordered them not to go out. Then, Saint Aogu swung his spear across the sky and a dragon-like holy light pierced through the void and broke the mountain protection formation. Saint Aogu rushed in and killed everyone he saw like a demon. Even an immortal state overlord like Qiu Xuanji couldn't resist him. Poof! Saint Aogu's spear pierced through Qiu Xuanji's chest and then flicked upward. A holy light spread from bottom to top like a knife cutting through water. It was at least a few hundred meters long. Clang! The central hall, which covered an area of a few thousand square meters, was split in half and collapsed. Countless disciples died in the holy light. This is also the Orthodox Taoist sect. It's so weak. It can't be compared to my glorious Holy See. Saint Aogu laughed maniacally. He was covered in blood and looked like a bloodthirsty demon. But what was strange was that when Saint Aogu and the others were rampaging in Huaxia, Wang Linger and the Amei sect didn't do anything. The Chuanjin sect was annihilated. When the news spread, the entire cultivation world in Huaxia was shocked. Many people couldn't believe it. The Chuanjin sect was the Orthodox Taoist sect, second only to the large sects like the ancient Wudang sect. It was also one of the top 10 sects. But it was annihilated. Back then, Qiu Xuanji could talk to sect masters like Zhang Qianlei and Chen Anping as equals. He was also a perfected Taoist body, a veteran immortal state overlord. But he couldn't even last one round. At this moment, the Huaxiaolong formation came out and started to kill Saint Aogu. But Saint Aogu started to hide and didn't fight the Long formation directly. He continued to bully the other martial arts families. Demons have appeared in the east. Jiang Taichu is a supreme demon. He must be killed. In addition, the Judgment Department, the Knights of the Round Table and the Red Crusade all came out. They were filled with righteous indignation and announced that they were going to conquer Huaxia and eliminate Kang Taichu. In addition, the Holy See's tomb was filled with holy light. It was said that many sleeping overlords had awakened and were going to advance to the east. Among them was even the Lord of the Holy See, Saint Paul. What the hell? How is Kang Taichu a devil? Where were the Holy See when he killed the Gathering of Darkness? Besides, Kang Taichu is in Sidoni. What does it have to do with Huaxia? It's because Sidoni has a giant Dharma artifact that surpasses modern technology. They don't dare to provoke him. So, they're picking on the weak, right? When the news came, the overlords of the Huaxia cultivation world were so angry that their noses were crooked and they cursed. The Huaxiaolong formation, on the other hand, was facing a formidable enemy. They jointly held a joint conference with the Tianqing school to discuss countermeasures. According to intelligence, 30 sleeping saint kings have awakened, including the last lord of the Holy See, Saint Paul. Yi Zhantian's face was serious as he announced a lot of information. Saint Paul, who had founded the Holy See with the Son of True God, was already at the level of Saint Master, and his combat power was equivalent to that of a sky immortal. In the Middle Ages, when immortal state warriors were everywhere, cultivation was glorious. Saint Paul was still able to suppress the blood race and the werewolves and wrestle with the European royal family. In the past, the Blood Lord, Cain, was beaten by him and fled in panic. He slept in an ancient castle for hundreds of years and did not dare to come out until he was awakened by Nie Mingyuan. It was said that in the Tang dynasty, St. Paul had come to Huaxia with diplomatic envoys to exchange Taoist skills. He had defeated the sect leader of the Qingqing sect, and even the sect leader of the Kunlun sect was amazed by his saint arts. Such an old monster with a lifespan of thousands of years had awakened and was going to wage war against the cultivation world of Huaxia. This could be said to be the most terrifying enemy in the past 1,000 years. It would be strange if Yi Zhantian was not nervous. The Holy See has chosen a good time. Situ Shao rubbed his chin and muttered to himself. Well, the news of the battle between Master and Senior Brother Deva must have spread. Hua Qingtian said with a serious face, in that battle, Master performed a saber technique that reversed time and space. His black hair turned white and he aged in an instant. In their opinion, it would be difficult for Master to recover, so it was the best time to strike. In fact, Jiang Tian recovered very quickly. But for Tianqing School, the situation was worse than Jiang Tian's injury. Because Jiang Tian immediately went to the worldlet with Yi Tianren, and no one knew when they would come back. Zhang Qianlei had been missing for more than half a year, and Zhao Xueqing was pregnant and could not use her cultivation at all. Tianqing School had lost 4 super giants. The key was that Qin Zongheng and other families in Yanjing had betrayed Jiang Tian, and Jiang Tian had killed many strong masters to clean up the mess. At this time, it was the night before the recovery of the martial arts world of Huaxia. Broken but not yet established, the masters had fallen, and there were many things to be done. Moreover, the Holy See's actions were very disgusting. They knew that the Coelian system was not to be trifled with, so they did not go to Sidonia at all. Instead, they wreaked havoc in Tianqing School's hall in Huaxia. They probably wanted to lure Tianqing School's main force away from Sidoni's dojo, and then kill them one by one. When the Holy See announced that demons had appeared in the east and declared war on Tianqing School, they immediately sent their army to the border. On the banks of the Nile River, the last Brahmin guru, Gaia, led many strong masters out of seclusion and denounced Kang Te-Chu for raising monsters and colluding with the Wolf clan to bring chaos to Southeast Asia, calling him a supreme demon. He declared that he would cross the southern border of Huaxia and point his sword at the major sects in the hinterland of Huaxia. He wanted to kill demons and eliminate Kang Te-Chu's henchmen. Who is Master Gaia? How come I've never heard of him? Is he an immortal state warrior? Many people had never heard of him, let alone ordinary people, overlords in the dark world, or even the head of a martial arts family in Huaxia. Immortal state warrior? How dare he challenge Tianqing School? He's courting death. What bullshit, Grandmaster Jiaye? He's nothing in front of Grandmaster Jiang. Someone said. There were many talents under Jiang Tian, including immortal state warriors and earth-level overlords like Situ Shao and Yi Tianren. No one dared to provoke them. It could be said that the Tianqing sect already vaguely possessed the majestic aura of an unparalleled sect. It was magnificent and not inferior to the church at all. This Master Jia Yi is very strong and has a strong background. He is the last surviving guru of the Brahmin sect, the junior brother of the Brahmin sect's founder, and the person who founded the sect. He has lived for more than 2,000 years and his dharma power is incomparably profound. Even Shakyamuni, the Buddha, once listened to his preaching of scriptures under his seat. However, there were always some people who were good at digging for information. Soon, they had dug up information about Master Gaia and the Brahmin. He once assisted the Peacock dynasty in the war against the Indian royal family. Legend has it that he could kill 100,000 soldiers with one blow. The Brahmin is actually the oldest sect in India. It was born in 1000 BC and used to control the Peacock dynasty in India. The Buddhist sect is a branch of the Brahmin sect. Its foundation is so profound that it is impossible to guess. When the detailed information was released, the entire Huaxia fell silent. Countless experts trembled as if they had lost their parents. Chapter 970. The last guru of the Brahmin, Kasyapa Guru. He was still alive. After all, the spirit chi on earth had been depleted for too long. Even a sky immortal would not be able to live for 300 years. Some overlords had died prematurely because of their excessive cultivation speed. After all, without the support of spirit chi, their life was more likely to collapse. It was unbelievable. He had lived for more than 2,000 years and was a powerful overlord from the pre-Christian era. He was even older than St. Paul and was from the same era as the ancestral master of Buddhism, Sakyamuni, and the ancestral master of Huaxia. Compared to this unfathomable living fossil, the Huaxiaolong formation and the other martial arts families were like little rabbits in front of a prehistoric beast. Even the most powerful man in Huaxia, Yi Tianren, and the ancestral master of the Hong sect, Situ Shao, were no match for him. Wasn't it Nie Mingyuan who killed the Brahmin master Jiwu? Didn't Kang Te-chu avenge the Brahmin by killing Nie Mingyuan and the Gathering of Darkness? How can he repay kindness with ingratitude? He has no sense of shame at all. Those who knew the inside story were so angry that their noses were crooked. They scolded Guru Jia Yi for being shameless. However, Kasyapa Guru denied it with a compassionate face. He was indebted to Kang Te-chu, but he would not abandon the greater good just because of a small favor. The reason why he wanted to kill Jiang Tian and annihilate the Tianqing sect was for the fate of the entire human race on earth, for the sake of the greater good. For a moment, the whole world was in an uproar. Everyone was shaken by the news. The Tianqing sect had already fallen under the joint attack of two of the world's top orthodoxies. They were swaying in the wind and rain and were in imminent danger. Right at this moment. In the Tongtian Valley of Malaysia, Li Fifan was anxiously waiting with a group of bodyguards in the Tongtian temple. Beside him, Hua Qingtian, Zhao Yuankuan, and Wei Feilong were frowning as they sipped their tea. Fuck, why isn't Master Kong back yet? Isn't this going to kill him? At this time, Li Fifan, who had not slept well for several days, was pacing back and forth like an ant on a hot pan with a pair of panda eyes. The Brahmin orthodoxies and the Holy See orthodoxies were about to go to war with Tianqing school. Li Fifan was ordered to guard the transmission array with the three giants. In fact, there were more than 10 teleportation arrays in the stellar sky domain that connected to the Earth domain. However, very few people in the Earth domain knew about them. Only the Valley of Heaven Ascension could be exposed, and it could also be destroyed by the Holy See and the Brahmin. Therefore, Zhao Xueqing sent them to guard this place. Fifan, calm down. Hua Qingtian frowned. Senior Hua, I'm just worried. Li Fifan wanted to cry. Now, the Brahmin orthodoxies in Singapore and Southeast Asia are all eager to fight. It's very likely that the Chinese orthodoxies in Singapore will be in danger. The more he spoke, the more regretful he became. His face was as bitter as a stir-fried melon. If I had known this would happen, I would have stopped Master Kong from going to the small world. It's too scary. If we die there, we will suffer a great loss. Then, Singapore will have no state preceptor and no one to rely on. In fact, Li Fifan had not realized the dangers in the star dimension. He had wanted to go there and kill everyone. However, after a lot of information about the heavenly star's small world was exposed, Li Fifan was scared to death. If there were thousands of deities like Master Kong would be surrounded and beaten up. How could he come back? However, at this time, boom. 1,000 meters above the sky reaching Nunnery, dark clouds suddenly covered the sky and blocked the sun. In the depths of the clouds, lightning flashed and thunder roared. Lightning as thick as an arm intertwined into a blazing sea of lightning, covering a radius of 3 miles. The spiritual chi between heaven and earth surged like a tide. The wind howled, and the day seemed to have turned into night in an instant. What's wrong? The bodyguards were very uneasy. They pulled out their pistols and looked around. It's over. It's not the Heavenly Star Palace. They're invading. Li Fifan was scared out of his wits. He slipped under the table and hugged his head, cowering like a quail. I don't know if it's Master or, Hua Qingtian and the other two exchanged glances. Their expressions turned grave as they stood up and stared at the teleportation portal. If Jiang Tian came back, they would win. If it was the Heavenly Star Palace, a war would break out immediately. Even though Hu Qingtian and the others knew the danger of this war, they would kill as many as they could. At that time, Tianqing School would face the three major forces of the Heavenly Star Small World, the Holy See, and the Brahman. A golden beam of light more than 1,000 meters long shot from the depths of the sky. Boom! With a loud bang, the five-colored altar-like teleportation formation rumbled. The golden beam of light contained endless space energy, as if it came from the ninth heaven. Even Hu Qingtian and the other two were forced to retreat by the violent force, and they couldn't breathe properly. When the dust settled, the light dissipated. Jiang Tian, the old dragon, and Yi Tianren appeared together. Li Fifan held his head and looked up. He couldn't help but be stunned and rubbed his eyes hard. Master Kong came back. He came back alive. Did they win? Could it be that Grandmaster Jiang killed those immortals? This is too incredible. Hu Qingtian and the other two were also overjoyed. They knelt on the ground and said loudly, "Disciple welcomes Master's glorious return." Master Kong, I knew that your power is deep and your methods are omnipotent. You will definitely win. Ha, now that I look at it, it's just as I expected. Li Fifan hurriedly came out from under the table and flattered crazily. Get up. Jiang Tian nodded at him and walked out step by step. He looked at Hu Qingtian and said with a smile, "Is the situation stable now? How are Qing'er and the others?" Mistress is healthy, and the little life is lively and active. Every day, it kicks Mistress until she can't sleep. Hu Qingtian said with a smile. Very good. Jiang Tian nodded with satisfaction. He was relieved and showed a happy smile. Also, have you found any news about Zhang Qianlei? Jiang Tian asked with a frown. Zhang Qianlei had been missing for more than half a year. Jiang Tian was very worried about him. Before this, he had sent the Italian mafia, the Hong sect and the Tianqing School's intelligence agencies to search the world for him. There's no news yet. Hu Qingtian's face darkened as he replied. I don't know if he's alive or dead. I don't know who kidnapped him. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He snorted and said, when I find out who he is, I will chop him into pieces. But master, the situation outside is not good. Hu Qingtian and the other two quickly recounted what had happened in a concise manner. Jiang Tian's face became gloomier and gloomier as he listened. By the end of the story, his face was filled with murderous intent. He, Holy See, Brahman, these old fogies can't sit still anymore. Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and said with a cold smile. They probably think that I went to the celestial small world to recuperate because I was injured and didn't dare to provoke them. That's why they are so arrogant. Master, what do you think? Zhao Yuankuan asked. It's not that simple. Jiang Tian's eyes flickered as he said slowly. The Brahman is the orthodoxy of the Layin Mountain dimension in Westland. The Holy See represents the heavenly star small world in the Templar dimension. The two orthodoxies, the Holy See and the Brahman sect, want to occupy Earth before their masters arrive. They want to enslave all humans and claim credit for their achievements. So they are the henchmen of the immortal world. No wonder they are so powerful. Aren't they just leading the way? Shameless. Don't they think they are humans on Earth? Hu Qingtian and the others were shocked and angry. No matter what their background is, those who offend the Tianqing school must die. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and said coldly. Master will soon step foot on their mountain gates and kill them all, exterminating their orthodoxy. Their teleportation array should be in the depths of the dojo. When the time comes, I will kill their masters as well. Master, I'll go with you. Yes, this battle will be dangerous. Hu Qingtian and the others were excited. At the same time, they were secretly worried about Jiang Tian. They heard that teleportation arrays used up a lot of true yuan and qi. Jiang Tian must be very weak now. The risk was extremely high. Don't worry, they are just a bunch of trash. I can kill them easily. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of murderous intent. He had made up his mind. However, before starting this battle, Jiang Tian wanted to go back to Tianqing School to see Qing'er. It had been several months since they parted. For Jiang Tian, not seeing Qing'er for a day was like 3 years. Jiang Tian didn't want to wait for even a minute. He immediately rushed to the airport and took a private plane to Sidoni. They split into 2 groups. Yi Tianren and the Old Dragon rushed to Huaxia to kill the invaders from the Holy See and the Brahmin. In addition, Situ Shao also rushed over to provide support. When they arrived at the familiar Tianqing school, Jiang Tian suddenly felt like he had returned home. He was happy and calm. With Jiang Tian's help, Zhao Xueqing welcomed him with a big belly. She held his hand and smiled. Jiang Tian, you are finally back. His father, Jiang Zhixing, followed behind. Although he looked calm, he couldn't hide the worry in his eyes. Are you hurt? You went to some heavenly star small world. I was scared to death. I heard that the people there are very strong. Zhang Wanqing asked Jiang Tian to lift his arms and legs to check carefully. She said angrily, you are going to be a father soon. Can't you be more mature? Before this, she had been strongly against Jiang Tian going to the stellar sky domain. These days, she couldn't eat or sleep well because of worry. Now, she was relieved. However, she still complained. There are some things that can't be helped. Jiang Tian didn't explain much. In fact, it wasn't just the stellar sky small world that thought that the conditions for Earth's spirit energy revival were met. Even the heavenly kingdom Saint Hall, West Earth's Thunder Mountain, and many other dimensional worlds had plans to attack Earth. At this time, if he waited, he would be sitting and waiting for death. He could only become a slave of the dimensional worlds. As the saying goes, no egg can remain intact when the nest is overturned. The human race on Earth was a community with a common destiny. If all the humans on Earth were suppressed, Tianqing School would not be peaceful. Jiang Tian had always adhered to the principle that the best defense was offense. Therefore, once the enemy exposed their hostility, Jiang Tian would immediately kill them until they were afraid, until they trembled, and until they knelt down and surrendered. Chapter 971. Children have their own plans. What's more, Jiang Tian is in control of a country and a religion. The problems he faces are beyond your control. You just have to manage your Medicine King group. Don't talk too much. Jiang Zhixing supported Jiang Tian and tried to persuade Zhang Wanqing. I gave birth to my child after 10 months of pregnancy. Can't I say anything? Isn't that right, Jiang Tian? Zhang Wanqing naturally retorted without hesitation. The 2 of them started bickering again. Ha, Dad, just admit defeat. Seeing his parents bickering, Jiang Tian found it interesting and quickly interrupted. You're no match for my mother. Even if I control the entire Immortal Ruins world, my mother will still be my mother. Even though the spirit qi in the stellar sky domain was 10 times more abundant than on Earth, Jiang Tian still felt that Earth was his home. There was a kind grandfather, parents who cared about him all the time, a gentle Qing'er, and a baby that was about to be born. I agreed on 3 months. I didn't exceed the time limit. It's just that you've lost a lot of weight. Jiang Tian looked at Qing'er's slightly thin face affectionately and held her little hand. Even after going through so many dangerous battles in the stellar sky domain, Jiang Tian still missed Zhao Xueqing all the time. The 2 of them were so close that they were like Siamese twins. Once they were separated, they would be tormented by longing. Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing had agreed to come back before the Qingming festival to pay respects to her mother with Zhao Xueqing. It's good that you're back safely. It doesn't matter even if you're a little late. Zhao Xueqing wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and said bitterly. She also missed and worried about Jiang Tian. She knew how dangerous the heavenly star's small world was. It could be said that it was far more dangerous than any force on earth. Especially during this period, the Holy See and the Brahmin had declared war on Tianqing school. Although she couldn't go to war, she had to mobilize the troops and placate the people. She had to work a lot. Moreover, she was under a lot of psychological pressure. But now, Jiang Tian had returned, and she could feel that Jiang Tian's cultivation had improved. Thus, her hanging heart immediately fell to the ground. In her eyes, Jiang Tian was omnipotent and the strongest. Nothing could defeat Jiang Tian. Her husband was no match for the immortals of the small world, let alone the Holy See and Brahmin. The little girl seems to have grown a lot. Jiang Tian touched Qing'er's belly. He felt that they were connected by blood. He smiled like a fool. It felt really good to be a father. It was as if his life had been extended. Jiang Tian even felt a sense of pride. Speaking of which, it was strange. After Jiang Tian ascended to the God realm, he had opened up a small dimensional world. But at that time, he didn't have this kind of pride. Jiang Tian was even a little nervous. After all, Jiang Tian had cultivated for 10,000 years in his previous life, but he didn't have a cultivation partner, let alone a child. It was inevitable for Jiang Tian to be excited about being a father for the first time. The little life became even more mischievous. Suddenly, she kicked Jiang Tian's palm vigorously, giving Jiang Tian a fright. Aya, she kicked me. She's so strong. Such a little life, but she's so strong. Jiang Tian's eyes widened. He felt very magical, as if he had opened the door to a new world. He was a peerless powerhouse who could break mountains with one punch and destroy cities with one sword, but he felt that his unborn daughter's kick was very strong. This little girl is very mischievous and very active. When the time comes, she'll definitely be a restless person. Zhao Xueqing touched her belly and complained, but her beautiful eyes were curved into a beautiful crescent moon shape, full of love and glory. At this time, she was about to give birth to her precious daughter. Her face was emitting a holy and motherly radiance. Good. That's great. That's more like my daughter. She dares to go against the heavens, the earth, the air, and even kick her father. Jiang Tian's face was full of glory. You don't even feel sorry for me. Many times, you kick me until I can't sleep. Zhao Xueqing pouted, her face filled with resentment. In the outside world, she was the mother of a country, the wife of the sect leader, and a supreme beauty who was awe-inspiring and inviolable. But in reality, she was only a 27-year-old girl. Only in front of Jiang Tian could she completely shed her strong pretense and reveal this little girl's side. You little brat, you dare to kick my wife? I'll teach you a lesson when we come out. Jiang Tian pointed at the little one in his belly and threatened her with a vicious expression. You can't be so fierce. You have to be an outstanding father. Zhao Xueqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She stayed in Sidoni for 2 days to spend time with her parents and grandpa. She also checked around and gave some advice to her disciples. By then, Sidoni's economy had improved by leaps and bounds. Its per capita GDP was much higher than that of the United States. Its high-tech industry was developing rapidly and the new Silicon Valley was even more prosperous than when it was in the United States. The Medicine King Group was already the most valuable company in the world. Other than that, the large companies that followed Jiang Tian were also expanding and developing rapidly. But all of this was based on Sidoni's powerful military force. And now, Sidoni had spent a fortune to cultivate 5 Coelian statues, which made the United States tremble in fear. The United States of America wouldn't dare to touch Jiang Tian. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that even if Jiang Tian raised the capital to the ground, the Pentagon would have to swallow their anger. As for the Holy See and the Brahmin, they were just a group of earth-level deities and sky immortals. The test data of this thing was far more powerful than nuclear weapons and it could even kill a golden core cultivator. Zhao Yuankuan, Wei Feilong, and Hu Qingtian had also reached the peak of the qi refinement stage. Situ Zhao's true qi had also been condensed into true essence. He was already at the second level of the foundation establishment and had reached the phenomenal success level of the 5 elements sky-snatching sword art. Yi Tianren had followed Jiang Tian to Star World this time, and his cultivation level and state of mind had improved a lot. Situ Xiao had helped Tianqing school resist the Holy See and the Brahmin. The two of them had been appointed as the left and right guardians by Jiang Tian, which was even higher than Hu Qingtian, Zhao Yuankuan, and Wei Feilong. However, Qing'er's cultivation progress had been very slow since she was pregnant. She stopped at the 8th level of the qi refinement stage and even showed signs of falling to the 7th level of the qi refinement stage. This caused Jiang Tian to be extremely puzzled in his heart, and he clicked his tongue in wonder. He immediately used his divine sense to investigate carefully and couldn't help but be shocked. The child in Qing'er's belly is also a pure phoenix immortal body. Could this be the reason for her cultivation level to fall? Jiang Tian was both worried and happy. His face was slightly dignified and his heart was a little worried. He was worried and frowned. He couldn't help but think of a legend about the pure phoenix immortal body. Once the pure phoenix immortal body was successfully cultivated, it would be extremely powerful, but it was also extremely rare. It could even be said that it was 1 in a billion. In the history of the cultivation world, only a few strong people like Empress Fu Yao from 10,000 years ago in the Zhouxiao continent were clearly recorded. In his previous life, Jiang Tian had discussed with several almighty people why this kind of body was so rare. In the end, an immortal doctor gave a possible explanation. The pure phoenix immortal body couldn't give birth. Even if she was pregnant, she couldn't give birth to a child. Moreover, after investigation, in history, women with this kind of body didn't have children. Even Empress Fu Yao, who sat on hundreds of millions of territories, didn't have one. To be exact, Empress Fu Yao had been pregnant, but the baby was also stillborn. The immortal doctor had once explained. After an ordinary woman was pregnant, she would naturally send blood and qi nutrients to the baby through the uterus and the umbilical cord. However, after a female cultivator with the pure phoenix immortal body was pregnant, because of her physique, she would have an instinctive reaction to not send nutrients to the baby. Don't forget, this kind of physique was also called the sponge physique. It was known for its extreme void and powerful absorption ability. It could devour everything, carry all things, and refine them into cultivation. It could even absorb the energy of the baby and eventually starve the baby to death, turning it into a stillborn. Back then, the immortal doctor called it the curse of the pure phoenix immortal body. However, the baby in Qing'er's belly was also a pure phoenix immortal body. It was crazily absorbing Qing'er's blood, qi, and cultivation, so that her cultivation level had actually fallen by a level. According to this situation, the little girl had just come out of her mother's womb and had the strength of the first level of qi refining. Qing'er, do you feel very weak or uncomfortable after being pregnant? Jiang Tian was worried and asked Qing'er. Yes, I feel like she's drinking blood every day. Sometimes, it makes me dizzy and weak all over. Zhao Xueqing smiled contentedly and said, moreover, I still feel like I can't take all kinds of nourishing medicine. She mentioned some of the pills she had recently taken. The more Jiang Tian listened, the more alarmed he became. These great medicines, even in Jiang Tian's eyes, were tiger and wolf medicines. Even Qing'er should be so weak that she couldn't take it. She should even have a nosebleed and other adverse reactions like excessive blood and qi. However, Zhao Xueqing's blood and qi still plummeted. It could be seen how powerful and terrifying this little girl's devouring ability was. But are all mothers like this? Zhao Xueqing didn't take it to heart and smiled sweetly. As long as she can be born healthy and grow up happily, I feel that all the hard work is worth it. Jiang Tian smiled. But a moment later, a trace of gloominess appeared in his eyes, and he became more vigilant and uneasy. At this time, the little girl in the womb was already 7 or 8 months old. But in the last stage, her growth and development would be faster. Would she devour Qing'er's cultivation and blood and qi even more crazily? Would Qing'er have that kind of instinctive reaction and stop the supply of blood and qi to her? One had to know that this was very likely an instinct. Because of the constitution, it couldn't be changed by human consciousness. For example, the body of the immortal body of the stainless phoenix was like a self-operating machine that could devour all things. Qing'er couldn't control it. Or rather, the baby in the womb crazily devoured Qing'er's blood and qi until Qing'er was exhausted. How can this be? Jiang Tian's heart thumped and fell into the abyss. His hands trembled slightly, and he didn't dare to think further. Chapter 972. I must protect Qing'er and the child. There must be a way. Jiang Tian felt a headache coming on. He forced a smile and racked his brains to think of a solution. Jiang Tian could be said to be an encyclopedia of the cultivation world. There was nothing he didn't know. However, the immortal body of the stainless phoenix was too rare and special. Jiang Tian had to follow the basic rules of the cultivation world to deduce all kinds of possibilities and think of a way to deal with it. However, there were two things he had to be calm about. After all, this was Jiang Tian's speculation back then. There might not be any serious problems. Jiang Tian wasn't very anxious. Early in the morning, Jiang Tian held Qing'er's hand and said gently, "Qing'er, the Qingming festival is coming. Let's go back to China and pay respects to your mother, shall we?" "Honey, that's actually just an idea. We don't have to go. That idea has passed. It's a long journey and I don't want to waste time." Zhao Xueqing said gently. "Are you worried that the Holy See and the Brahmin will attack us?" Jiang Tian smiled. Zhao Xueqing didn't want to pay respects to her birth mother. That was impossible. Otherwise, she wouldn't have mentioned it so many times before. "No. Of course I have confidence in you," Zhao Xueqing said with a smile. Jiang Tian touched her soft hair and smiled. "Don't worry. Not to mention the Holy See and the Brahmin, even the United States of America can't kill me with nuclear weapons." In fact, Jiang Tian was more or less afraid of the United States of America, the Brahmin and the Holy See. For example, when he went to Sidoni, he usually took the military plane of Huaxia. But Jiang Tian wasn't afraid at all now. Sidoni was the most powerful military country now. How would the United States of America dare to attack him? The Holy See and Brahmin might dare to make a move. Because the ignorant were fearless, they did not know that Jiang Tian had gone to the heavenly star small world and his cultivation base had increased by several levels. However, the Holy See and Brahmin were just a bunch of earth immortals and heaven immortals. Before Jiang Tian went to the heavenly star small world, he might have to be cautious. But now, Jiang Tian could even kill a golden core overlord. They came to provoke Jiang Tian, but they were just cannon fodder seeking their own deaths. They were simply delivering their heads to Jiang Tian. "Yes. I believe you." Zhao Xueqing thought for a while and finally nodded. She said softly, "All these years, my mother's ashes have never been placed in the family's mausoleum. Her memorial tablet has never been placed in the family's ancestral hall." She sighed and said, before she died, she knew about this arrangement. She had always wanted to move her ashes back to the family's mausoleum so that she could go home. "Before I married you, I contacted my uncles several times and made a few requests, but they turned me down." In fact, there were some things that Zhao Xueqing couldn't say. Although her grandparents still doted on her, her uncles, aunts, and cousins didn't like her very much. When she was studying at Zhonghai University, Zhao Hucheng didn't love her. He didn't give her enough tuition and living expenses. He didn't even give her any money. She once went to her grandparents' house for help, but before she could see them, she was kicked out of the house by her cousins. At that time, she only had a few dozen yuan. She had to tutor, sell beer, and distribute flyers to earn living expenses. She also had to bear the heavy burden of her studies. Those days were a nightmare that Zhao Xueqing couldn't get rid of. Later, when she was able to live independently, she once proposed to send her mother's ashes back to the family's mausoleum. However, she was mocked and ridiculed by her uncles and aunts. But after all, it had been so long. Zhao Xueqing embarked on the road of cultivation. Her mind was peaceful, and she didn't want to mention it again. In particular, she knew that Jiang Tian was clear about kindness and hatred. He couldn't bear to see her wronged. If she said it, it might intensify the conflict. Jiang Tian frowned and said, "Why didn't they allow our mother's ashes to be buried in the family's mausoleum? I was still young at that time. I don't know. Is it because she married Zhao Hucheng?" Zhao Xueqing frowned slightly and thought. She didn't quite understand. After all, when her mother died, she was still very young. She didn't know anything. But she also vaguely realized that her grandfather's family was not an ordinary family. They were rich and powerful. It seemed that they were also strongly opposed to the marriage between her mother and Zhao Hucheng. "Well, you don't have to worry about these troublesome things. I'll deal with it. I'll talk to Grandpa and Grandma." Jiang Tian smiled comfortingly. However, when he heard that Jiang Tian was going to accompany Zhao Xueqing to visit her parents, old Master Jiang Tian called him over. "Grandpa, your cultivation is getting stronger and stronger. After a while, you'll succeed in building your foundation." Jiang Tian sat down opposite Jiang Chang'an with a smile. He took a sip of tea and said. Jiang Chang'an's cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. He had broken through to the 9th level of qi refining and was about to succeed in building his foundation. He could defeat an immortal state warrior and fight an earth immortal. This shocked Jiang Tian. He only had an ordinary constitution, but his cultivation speed was even faster than Qing'er's. But it wasn't strange. Jiang Chang'an was indifferent and had no distractions. Now, apart from playing chess and practicing medicine, he was cultivating. He wasn't like his mother and Yi Ziwei, who had to deal with Sidoni and the Medicine King group. The Saint Heart Monarch fist that Jiang Tian taught him also carried the concept of inner saint and outer monarch. It was full of righteousness and was very suitable for him. The Azure Dragon Cloud Sea technique was the best cultivation technique for the qi refining stage. Besides, Jiang Tian had an endless supply of pills. Jiang Tian had even given him a lot of Guizhong heavenly pills. The heavenly cycle perpetual array was full of spirit qi and it was as powerful as a dimensional world. Under such circumstances, it was not surprising that Jiang Chang'an had broken through so quickly. I think this cultivation is very interesting. It is very compatible with the theory of 5 elements and yin-yang in traditional Chinese medicine. Jiang Chang'an was comforted and laughed heartily. So it turns out that you enjoy your cultivation. That's the best. Jiang Tian said with a smile. But in the end, your cultivation art is very magical. Jiang Chang'an's face was full of joy. The two of them chatted for a while. Suddenly, Jiang Chang'an frowned and said, "Little Tian, I heard that you are going to accompany Qing'er to her parents' house to celebrate the tomb sweeping day." "Yes, not to Zhao Hucheng's place, but to her grandparents' house to pay respects to her birth mother." Jiang Tian saw that his grandfather's face was a little serious. He took a sip of tea and said, "But Qing'er is the person I love the most in my life. I will fulfill all of her wishes. Little Tian, Qing'er is a good woman. Of course you can't let her down." Jiang Chang'an sighed and said, "Back then, you were young and arrogant. You were always in trouble. You were the number 1 playboy in the world. Qing'er married you because her father forced her." Her father, Zhao Hucheng, also noticed the decline of the Jiang family. He was just betting that the Jiang family could recover and defeat the evil families in Jinlin City. It can be said that Qing'er and you didn't have much of a relationship back then. But when you were seriously ill, she was completely devoted to you. She took care of you, protected you, and never left you. This kindness, this sense of responsibility, and this loyalty to her marriage are really admirable. I know. In fact, the Zhao family wanted us to divorce. They even threatened Qing'er. Jiang Tian said with a wry smile. Jiang Tian had been holding a grudge against Zhao Hucheng and his wife for a long time. He had never called them father and mother. But now, he had let it go. It's human nature to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. No one is a saint. Jiang Chang'eng was also very open-minded. He said with a smile, at that time, the Jiang family was indeed hopeless. Grandpa, when Qing'er and I got married, her grandparents didn't send anyone to attend, and they haven't come out in all these years. I know that you have some grudges in your heart. Jiang Tian said, but no matter what, this is Qing'er's wish. I still have to fulfill it. Back then, Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing held a low-key wedding in Donghai. They only invited their close relatives. Even Zhao Xueqing's stepmother, Wei Fang's maternal family, Wei Jinghu, sent someone to attend. But Zhao Xueqing's grandparents didn't send anyone to attend. It was a blatant disregard. The Jiang family had always been quite dissatisfied with this. No matter what, Zhao Xueqing was a descendant of the Jiang family. Moreover, Zhao Xueqing was obviously not well liked in the Zhao family. Shouldn't her biological uncle show more care and concern? They were invited to the wedding by Zhao Hucheng. They didn't go because they didn't have any opinions about the Jiang family. Jiang Chang'eng was already an old man. He said calmly with a faint smile, and at that time, in order to protect you, I also wanted to keep it low-key. It's not a bad thing that they didn't attend. Suddenly, Jiang Chang'eng's face turned serious. His eyes flashed and he said in a low voice, but as far as I know, Zhao Xueqing's grandparents have a powerful background. They think highly of themselves. What's their background? Jiang Tian frowned. In Jiang Tian's memory, the number of times Zhao Xueqing returned to her grandparents' house in her previous life could be counted on one hand. There were only 2 times when Qing'er returned. When she did, she was in a bad mood. Her eyes were filled with tears, as if she had been wronged. But at that time, the Jiang family was on the verge of collapse. Jiang Tian's mental state was unstable. He couldn't even take care of himself and didn't pay much attention to it. A 300-year-old Nailan family in Wuzhen, Jiangzhou. Jiang Chang'eng said solemnly. A 300-year-old Nailan family in Wuzhen. Jiang Tian's expression changed slightly. He seemed to have recalled something. Chapter 973. On the surface, the Nailan family looked like a normal family with assets of around $1 billion. They were a scholarly family and were mainly involved in the internet and cultural industries. However, in truth, their ancestor was a famous Qing dynasty official, Nailan Mingyu. Nailan Mingyu, Yehenera, was a member of the Yellow Banner of Manchuria and a powerful official of the Kangxi dynasty. He was the Minister of Internal Affairs, the Minister of Justice, the Imperial Censorate, and the Imperial Tutor of the Crown Prince. This person played an active role in Kangxi's decision to remove the 3 vassal states, unify Taiwan, and defend against foreign enemies. He was famous for a period of time and had great power. People called him the Prime Minister. Counting further back. Nailan Mingyu's father was Nurhasai's favorite general and contributed greatly to the Qing army entering the pass to establish the Qing dynasty. Mingyu's sister was also Nurhasai's concubine and Huang Taiji's mother. Hence, the Nailan family was a true royal family. Counting further back. The Nailan family had many talents. Nailan Mingyu's son, Nailan Qingde, surpassed his father. He was a grand scholar in the 15th year of the Kangxi dynasty, an imperial bodyguard, and a famous poet in the Qing dynasty. Some later generations commented on her work, elegant and graceful, yet sentimental and stubborn. Her style is profound and unique. Later on, Nailan Qingde was tired of his career and resigned. It was recorded in the history books that Kangxi once saw him off 15 li before parting with tears in his eyes. For a time, it was passed down as a beautiful story. After resigning, Nailan Qingde came to Wuzhen to live in seclusion. However, the Nailan family did not cut ties with the Qing dynasty. They worked as a weaver in Jiangnan for hundreds of years and provided clothes for the Qing dynasty palace. Slowly, they formed a huge Nailan family. Kangxi visited Jiangnan incognito several times and stayed at the Nailan family. He talked with Nailan Qingde through the night and slept together. In the entire Qing dynasty, the Nailan family had a deep influence. They were like a pillar that supported the country and could not be shaken. Jiang Changgang narrated the Nailan clan's 300 years of history, revealing everything in front of Jiang Tian. In the Republic of China, after the founding of the country, the Nailan family was very low-key. They only engaged in some economic affairs and seemed very inconspicuous. But as far as I know, Yi Wudao, the old grandmaster of Jiangxia, has never dared to offend the Nailan family. Jiang Changgang frowned. Clearly, the Nailan clan is still as powerful as ever, and is still as rich as ever. In fact, they have what it takes to make Leaf Dao Denier nervous. Jiang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly and flashed. Back then, the most prominent power in Jiangsu and Zhejiang was the Yi Wudao family, which had a good relationship with Jiang Tian. They were the descendants of the Qing gang and were a martial arts family. Back in the day, the ancestors of the Yi clan had dominated the Tenli Ocean field. They were neck and neck with Du Sheng and Huang Jinrong. Yi Wudao's generation had preserved their bloodline. Their prestige had shaken the entire lower reaches of the Yangtze River. Whether it was wealth, authority, or wealth, they were all top-notch. However, most people did not know that there was a hidden family in the Jiangzhou region that suppressed the Yi family. It was the Nailan family with a history of 300 years. They were far more powerful than the Yi Wudao family and even the martial arts families in Yanjin. But the more I think about it, the stranger it gets. Their existence is very strange. Jiang Changgang looked at Jiang Tian thoughtfully, as if he was referring to something. Yeah, how could there be a family in Huaxia that has a history of hundreds of years? Jiang Tian pondered for a while and nodded. If it's just a family, how could it survive the Qing dynasty, the Republic of China, and the new era for 300 years? There's only one explanation. What is it? Jiang Changgang asked. The Nailan family is very likely to be the legendary dragon guardian, the peripheral power of the reclusive royalty. Jiang Tian's eyes flickered and said coldly. If they have no strength and only wealth, they would have been torn to pieces and disappeared in the turbulent history of the Republic of China and modern times. If it was before, or even in his previous life, Jiang Tian knew nothing about the Nailan family. However, ever since he learned from the Pentagon that there was a reclusive royalty in Huaxia, he asked the intelligence department of Tianqing School to investigate. Moreover, Sita Shao, Yi Tianren, the Hong sect, and the Huaxiaolong formation shared information with each other. After a period of investigation, Jiang Tian had a deep understanding of the reclusive royalty. Actually, I have also studied a lot of information from the intelligence department over the past few days and I think that is very likely. Jiang Changgang asked curiously, but they are too low-key, aren't they? Low-key is the characteristic of the reclusive royalty. Jiang Tian smiled and said, although they are powerful, their luck has been cut off. It is impossible for them to fight for power, so they are very low-key and rarely appear in public. Jiang Changgang said lightly, as I said before, the Nailan family might not be targeting the Jiang family. In fact, Zhao Huqing faintly revealed that the Nailan family doesn't like this granddaughter of theirs, Qing'er. Why? Jiang Tian frowned. He suddenly thought of a possibility. In fact, when Jiang Tian returned to Linzhou city before the Spring Festival, his divine sense had discovered that Zhao Xueqing and Zhao Huqing were not related. Zhao Xueqing's biological father was someone else. This could also explain why Zhao Huqing was so cruel to Qing'er and used her as a bargaining chip for his own interests. However, Jiang Tian did not ask and pretended not to know. Because it would hurt Qing'er no matter what if he brought up this issue. At this time, Jiang Tian could not help but think, could it be that the Nailan family knew all this and was biased against Zhao Xueqing? I don't know either, Jiang Chang'an shook his head, then smiled proudly and said, "However, now that you and your wife control a country and a religion, you have shocked the world and suppressed the major countries. In the end, the Nayland family is just a fallen aristocrat. How would they dare to look down on you?" In this regard, Jiang Tian could only smile and say nothing. The old master of the Nayland family was called Nayland Bo. After leaving Jiang Tian's courtyard, Jiang Chang'an's warning still appeared in his mind. Nayland Bo is almost 100 years old. He has experienced the vicissitudes of life and is calm and indifferent. However, his son, the current head of the family, Nayland Li, seems to be very ambitious. He has a bit of influence in the reclusive royalty, so he must be domineering and tough. Although you now control a country and a religion, the Pentagon bowed their heads to you, and Yi Tianren is your disciple. However, the reclusive royalty has always thought highly of themselves and are extremely arrogant. They may not have a good face for you. In any case, they gave Qing'er life. We are also relatives. The strength of the reclusive royalty is not a small matter. You must not let your emotions affect your decisions and make enemies from both sides. Although Jiang Chang'an was very worried, Jiang Tian did not take it to heart. In his opinion, no one could bully Qing'er. If the Nayland family wanted to slight Qing'er, Jiang Tian would not be polite. In fact, his grandfather did not know that he had already set foot in the stellar sky domain and killed hundreds of exalted immortals. According to Bai Zhe and the others, these royal families were only the agents of the dimensional world in the Earth domain. Why would Jiang Tian be afraid of them? "Teacher, we will go with you." After hearing the news, Hua Qingtian's disciples took the initiative to find Jiang Tian and said sincerely, "We have received information that the Brahmin and Holy See, and even some experts of the European reclusive royalty have already sneaked into Huaxia. It is very likely that you will encounter them." "Yes, that's good." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "The Holy See, Brahmin, these bastards dare not come to Sidoni. They are afraid of the Kuelian. Your cultivation is improving rapidly now, but you still need to gain experience. This is a good opportunity." These disciples were very likely to follow him to conquer the dimensional worlds and the immortal ruins in the future. They were considered first-class experts on Earth, but compared to those in the dimensional worlds, they were lacking in both cultivation and combat experience. The Holy See, Brahmin, and even the European reclusive royalty might be on par with them in cultivation. This kind of training was the safest and most effective. "Yes, Master." The supreme giants were all excited. This meant that the counterattack had begun. "Also, my fourth uncle has developed a small mobile Kuelian. When the time comes, if you can't defeat them, lure them in and blow them into pieces with one shot." Jiang Tian laughed as he pointed at the military transport vehicles and said, "Watch carefully." Zhang Qinzhen raised his eyebrows and waved his hand. A few soldiers pulled away the military tarpaulin, revealing the true appearance of the Kuelian. This Kuelian was similar in appearance, but it was a miniature version. It weighed only a few tons and was very mobile. One military transport vehicle could carry one. Although it was not as powerful as the large Kuelian, it had no problem killing celestial immortals. However, this research result was a great improvement for Jiang Tian and Zhang Qinzhen. The technical requirements were also higher. One should know that the Kuelian was originally not a large Dharma artifact. It was only because of the limitations of the metal materials on Earth that it could not withstand a huge amount of energy and could easily be damaged by an explosion. Therefore, it had to be enlarged 10 times or even 100 times. Now, Zhang Qinzhen had made a breakthrough in the research of metal materials. After listening to Zhang Qingen's detailed data, Hua Qingtian and the others were excited. They rubbed their hands and laughed, "Ha, good, good, good. With the small Kuelian, the Holy See and Brahmin are here to die. Master, you don't have to do it yourself. We can do it." "That's right. I didn't plan to do it in the first place. They are not worthy of me doing it." Jiang Tian sipped his tea and smiled faintly. "This time, I'm giving you a chance to train. You have to do your best and beat the crap out of the Holy See and Brahmin. I'll be behind you. Chapter 974. Jiang Tian and his wife took Situ Shao, the left guardian, Hua Qing Tian, Zhao Yuankuan, and Wei Feilong on a private plane. Several transport planes took 5 small Kuelian cars and related technical personnel to Huaxia and Zhonghai. When Jiang Tian flew to Huaxia, in a mansion with white walls and black tiles in Wu town of Jiangxia. A middle-aged man in a gray gown, who looked like a great scholar from the Republic of China, was in the living room with a middle-aged beautiful woman in a cheongsam. They were drinking green and clear Dongting Biluakun before the Ming dynasty with a good blue and white antique teacup of Yuan dynasty. The fragrance of the tea was everywhere. Not to mention the simple and old building, the dazzling array of antiques on the antique shelves, the famous landscape paintings hanging on the wall. Just the 2 teacups in their hands were worth tens of millions, which was equivalent to a year's profit of a small and medium-sized listed company. The Dragon Protector clan had a deep foundation and was rich and noble. Naylan Iran's daughter suddenly returned to the province to pay homage to her birth mother. She is a bastard of unknown origin. Why did father ask us to treat her well? What the hell is this? Isn't it a disgrace to our noble family? She should be kicked out. The beautiful middle-aged woman was adorned with jewelry and had a beautiful face. She seemed to have reached the transcendent state. However, her eyes were cold and arrogant. It was obvious that she was not a person to be trifled with. Hee, that husband of hers is an amazing person. Naylan Li was elegant and tall. His eyes were shining and his breath was deep. He was half a step away from the immortal state. He said with a faint smile. I know the Jiang family. The Medicine King group is doing well, but they are not noble. How can they be compared with the Dragon Protectors? Li Roshi sneered and said disdainfully, besides, I have heard of Jiang Tian. He is just a good-for-nothing and then went crazy. He can't be compared with our son and daughter. Roshi, when can you open your eyes and ears and see the outside world? Naylan Li shook his head and smiled bitterly. Jiang Tian is the world's #1 expert, Kang Te Chu. What? It was actually him. How is this possible? Li Roshi's face was filled with disbelief, as if she had seen a ghost. She was originally not interested in worldly affairs. She was engrossed in cultivation and the small affairs of the Manchu Qing remnants. Therefore, she knew very little about the news of the outside world. At this moment, she couldn't accept the fact that a good-for-nothing hedonistic lunatic was the world's #1 expert. This is the truth. Naylan Li laughed. Yi Wudao of Jiangsu and Zhejiang was killed by him. Several famous martial arts tyrants from Huaxia have all pledged allegiance to him. Leaf Dao Denier isn't a match for him. Li Roshi was surprised and incredulous. The Jiang clan is just an ordinary clan. Where did Jiang Tian get his martial arts inheritance from? Could it be that he joined a large sect? Joined a large sect? Naylan Li sipped his tea and said with a smile, more than half of the hidden sects in Huaxia, except for the Kunlun sect, Kang Te Chu is the 5th. Naylan Li obviously had special intelligence channels and had conducted an in-depth and comprehensive investigation on Jiang Tian. Except for some extremely secret information, he basically knew everything. Then, he told Li Roshi about Jiang Tian's achievements in detail. How is this possible? Even Yi Tianren was defeated by him. He shook the universe shield and blue storm and suppressed the superpowers of the world. Where did he learn such powerful skills? After listening to the story, Li Roshi's face was filled with shock and disbelief. I also think it's strange. Naylan Li furrowed his brows and revealed a thoughtful expression. He's young, not even 30 years old, but his strength is comparable to a divine immortal and he controls a country and a sect. This is incredible. A divine immortal. The limit of human cultivation on Earth was very rare in history. Even in the Middle Ages, where immortal state cultivators were everywhere, there were only a few divine immortals. Moreover, many of them were illusory records. Whether they were real or not was still a question. Even in the reclusive royalty and the dragon protection clan, there had never been a divine immortal. Jiang Tian actually had this kind of cultivation, could be said to be an extremely talented individual, the most powerful one in the last 1,000 years. Let's not talk about his cultivation first. Why did the couple come to our house this time? Li Roshi asked with a frown. Nalan Li frowned and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his eyebrows relaxed and he said with certainty, I think he's here to ask for our help. Ask for our help? Li Roshi could not believe it. She said, he controls a country and a sect and is invincible. Why would he need our help? Nalan Li was the most powerful person in the Nalan family's dragon protection clan, but he was only half a step away from the immortal state. Jiang Tian was several levels higher than him. Even his disciples were stronger than him. Why would he need the help of the Nalan family? You don't know. Nalan Li smiled proudly and explained, Jiang Tian has offended too many forces. This time, the Holy See and the Brahmin have declared that they will attack Jiang Tian. How can he do it? Tianqing school is so powerful. Maybe he can't. Li Roshi frowned and said. As far as I know, Jiang Tian used a saber technique to reverse time and space in order to save Yi Tianren in the battle with Yi Tianren. Nalan Li continued. Reverse time and space. This is equivalent to stealing from the heavens and changing the laws of heaven and earth. Did he succeed? Li Roshi's face turned pale with shock and disbelief. There were many Dharma spells and divine powers. A transcendent state overlord could fly and condense qi into soldiers to kill people in the air. A perfected cultivator could use the art of Qimen Duanjia to summon soldiers and summon the wind and rain. However, all of this was based on the laws of heaven and earth. It was just the use of the laws of heaven and earth. But reversing time and space was different. This was breaking the laws of heaven and earth. There were only rumors about it, but no one had ever successfully used it. He did it. Celestial Yi, you've left and come back from the dead. Nalan Li shook his head and heaved a sigh. He did it. This was simply too inconceivable. Is he a true god? Li Roshi was so shocked that her head was about to explode. He is not a true god. Maybe he has some kind of ancient secret art that allows him to reverse time and space. Nalan Li's eyes flashed as he said in a low voice, however, he was injured. He vomited blood on the spot and his black hair turned white. His aura weakened as if he had aged a few decades in an instant. His lifespan has been damaged. I'm afraid his true qi cultivation will be damaged too. Li Roshi said with certainty. True qi cultivation, fleshly body, psyche, divine ability, and lifespan, these few aspects were unified in cultivation. They were bound together for good or ill. Usually, if one of them was damaged, the others would be seriously affected as well. Yes. So, I guess Jiang Tian and his wife have returned to the province to ask for help. Nalan Li's eyes flashed with wisdom as he nodded. The Holy See and the Brahmin are the most powerful forces in the world. They have many holy kings and even a few extremely powerful holy sages. It's fine if Jiang Tian's cultivation is still there. Now that it's gone, won't they need our help? After all, we are the Dragon Guardians. Not only do we have a close relationship with the Qing royal family, but we also have connections with the reclusive royalty of the other Huaxia countries. That's not a small force. I see. Li Roshi had a sly look on her face as she said, Husband, what do you mean? He can ask for our help, but he has to pay a price. Nalan Li said in a scheming manner. If the deities of the heavenly star small world want to descend, they must have a place to stay. I think Jiang Tian Sidoni is a good place. If we can complete this mission, will we be able to ascend to the heavenly star small world? Legend has it that that is the place where the deities live. Li Roshi was extremely excited. Her beautiful eyes sparkled. Although she couldn't go, she yearned for it. A luxury passenger plane named Suahang 811 slowly landed at Zhonghai International Airport. This plane was designed and assembled by Sidoni's state-owned aircraft factory in collaboration with Huaxia. It had its own intellectual property rights. In the international market, this model of plane could compete with the classic models of Boeing and Airbus. Jiang Tian, the Jiang family, the Medicine King Group, Tianqing School, Chen Yang and other state leaders, of course, supported the state-owned enterprise and used a batch of it first. And this plane was specially made for Jiang Tian. It cost $400 million, and the modification cost was as high as $100 million. It was luxurious, elegant, safe and comfortable. If word of this got out, those little rich second-generation heirs who flaunted their supercars would feel ashamed of their inferiority. At the airport, Yi Zhantian immediately brought the soldiers of the Huaxia Dragon Group to pick them up. Yi Tianren and the old dragon were still fighting on the battlefield. What's the situation now? In the VIP tea room of the airport, Jiang Tian held a brief meeting and asked lightly. The Huaxia Long Formation is at the southwest border of Tibet, near the Lansang River. We have encountered the Brahmin overlords of the Holy See. Yi Zhantian stood solemnly and reported with a serious face. We have suffered heavy casualties. The White Tiger is dead, and many transcendent grandmasters have also fallen. However, after my father joined the battle, the situation was reversed. The enemy also lost a lot of people. A Holy King Red Cardinal was killed and 3 Holy Kings were severely injured. Chapter 975. As the saying goes, great waves wash away the sand. You all need to train. Jiang Tian's face was emotionless. There will be more challenges in the future. You all need to get used to this kind of cruel battle. Jiang Tian was deeply saddened by the sacrifices made during the Huaxia Long Formation. These were the backbone of the nation, the elites of the nation. However, Jiang Tian could not protect them forever. After all, Jiang Tian had to conquer the universe and leave Earth in the future. Therefore, they needed cruel battles to improve their cultivation and combat power. They needed to be tempered by blood and fire to sharpen their sharpness and the ability to stand on their own. The training ground could not produce a truly peerless overlord. During this process, sacrifices were unavoidable and even necessary. In Jiang Tian's view, the invasion of the Holy See and Brahman was a rare opportunity for training. If the West Earth and the heavenly realm behind them were to attack, the Huaxia Long Formation might not even last a day. I understand. We will not let you down in this battle. Yi Zhantian said vehemently. However, he hesitated and said worriedly, the enemies are coming. However, the enemies keep coming. Now, the Vatican and the Brahmin sect have sent out 400 to 500 transcendent realm experts. In addition, there are dozens of sage kings and saints. And they are stretching the battle line. I am worried that once the line is broken, it will not be so easy to kill them one by one. Don't worry. Didn't you see that Situ Xiao and Hu Qingtian are here? They will help you. Jiang Tian said with a smile. Also, we have a secret weapon. I guarantee that it will shock the world. Hu Qingtian said with a smile. That's great. Now, the cultivation world of Huaxia is safe. Yi Zhantian was so touched that tears welled up in his eyes. After analyzing the situation, Jiang Tian asked the overlords of Tianqing School to join the battle. Meanwhile, he and Zhao Xueqing rushed towards Wuzhen. In addition to Yi Zhantian and the others, Jiang Tian's sister-in-law, Zhao Qianru, also came to pick them up. Zhao Qianru was here to take care of Zhao Xueqing. The child in Zhao Xueqing's stomach was the pure immortal phoenix body. Jiang Tian suspected that she might not be able to give birth even after 10 months. This was not surprising. In the world of cultivation, some immortal fetus saints might only be born after 5 to 10 years of pregnancy. Because they no longer had mortal bodies, the qi, blood, and nourishment they needed were also different from ordinary people. But after all, Zhao Xueqing was already 7 months pregnant. Her belly was very big, and it was difficult for her to move around. In terms of taking care of people, Jiang Tian was clumsy, so it was more suitable for Zhao Qianru to take care of him. Sis, your stomach is so big. Oh my god, I'm going to have a niece. I'm going to be an aunt. I'm so happy. However, Zhao Qianru was overjoyed. She carefully supported Zhao Xueqing to the airport parking lot and sat in a red BMW. Zhao Qianru drove the car to Wuzhen. 3 hours later, they finally arrived at the Nailan family's mansion. Wuzhen was a typical water town in Jiangnan. Boats with black awnings slowly sailed on the river that extended in all directions. There were people washing rice, washing clothes, washing vegetables, and children playing by the river. The sun was setting in the west, and the afterglow dyed the small bridge, flowing water, houses, old houses, deep alleys, and long corridors. Almost all of them were old buildings from the Ming and Qing dynasties. In front of them was an ink painting that had been circulating for thousands of years. It's so comfortable here. It's as if people who come here are much more energetic and refreshed. After parking the car outside the Nailan family's mansion, Zhao Qianru got out of the car. She could not help but stretch her arms and sighed with intoxication. Zhao Xueqing looked up. What he saw was a small but exquisite courtyard. On the lintel of the door, there was a golden plaque with a black background. Written horizontally were the 3 large words, Hidden Dragon Dock, and vertically were the 2 small words, Imperial Creation. As expected of a 300-year-old family. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. According to local records, during the early years of Kangxi, Wuzhen was originally a barren land. The current Wuzhen was built around the Hidden Dragon Dock, so it was also called the Hidden Dragon Dock Town. After the Republic of China and the establishment of a new regime, the Hidden Dragon Dock had shrunk a lot. The name was then changed to the current abbreviation. Jiang Tian flipped through the historical records and found that the original Hidden Dragon Dock occupied almost half of Wuzhen. It had a radius of several thousand acres. This is the place where Mother grew up. Zhao Xueqing glanced at the carved corridors and painted buildings. Her eyes were slightly red and she could not help but feel sorrowful. It's just as I expected, Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He saw that there was a small spirit gathering array around the Hidden Dragon Dock. The spirit chi within a radius of 5 to 6 miles was continuously gathered here. To Jiang Tian, a spirit gathering array of this scale was of course nothing. It was even inferior to the mountain protection array of Wudang sect. However, compared to the average martial arts family, it was still far superior. This is probably the origin of the Hidden Dragon Dock. There is a dragon vein hidden here. Jiang Tian even discovered that there was a small dragon vein in the surrounding rivers. Although it had already dried up, the size of the dragon vein was still impressive. Back then, Nailan Chengde suddenly resigned and came here to guard the dragon vein. He wanted to prevent other families from taking over the dragon vein and robbing it of its fate, which would lead to the downfall of the Qing dynasty's royal family. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. He had some understanding in his heart. At this time, a muscular man in a black suit came forward and asked respectfully, "Are the 3 of you our guests?" This man should be the head bodyguard of the Hidden Dragon Dock. He was a transcendent state cultivator and could be considered a grandmaster in the outside world. "I am here to visit my grandfather and grandmother. My mother is Nailan Iran," Zhao Xueqing said softly. "Oh, so you are the daughter of the 4th lady. The old lady was still talking about you just now. Why aren't you going to report to her?" The head bodyguard quickly bowed and saluted. 2 girls who looked like maids heard the news and came to accompany them. One of the bodyguards quickly went in to report. After entering the gatehouse, there was a corridor on both sides. In the middle was a hall with a large marble screen on a sandalwood shelf. After turning the screen, there were 3 halls. Behind the hall was the main building. It was full of carved corridors and painted buildings. There were pavilions on both sides, 9 winding corridors, rockery, and strange rocks. Under the eaves, there were various kinds of birds, such as parrots and thrushes, making pleasant sounds. Jiang Tian and the others just walked into the hall. They saw two maids supporting a silver-haired old lady with a kind face to welcome them. Grandma. Zhao Xueqing was just about to greet her. My poor child. The old lady threw away the dragon-headed cane and hugged Zhao Xueqing in her arms. She cried out with her heart and her face was full of tears. The maids next to her also covered their faces and cried. Zhao Xueqing's eyes were also red and tears flowed out. Although she rarely came to the Nailan family, her grandmother and grandfather had always loved her very much. This was one of the few times in her lonely childhood that she felt the warmth of family. At this time, Li Roshi also came over with two aunts. She smiled and advised, Qing'er has grown up and came to visit grandfather and grandmother. This is a good thing. Mom, don't cry. Be careful not to hurt your body. The old lady just kept crying. She kept talking about Zhao Xueqing's suffering and grievances when she lost her mother at a young age and lived under someone else's roof. Li Roshi advised again, Mom, it doesn't matter if you cry. If you make Qing'er cry, she is pregnant. Don't affect the baby. Only then did the old lady gradually stop crying. She looked at Zhao Xueqing from head to toe and said with a benevolent smile, come to think of it, Qing hasn't been back for 16 years. Now you're a big girl and even a mother. She looked at Jiang Tian with admiration. She held Jiang Tian's hand and said with a smile, young man, you're very spirited. It's Grandpa and Grandma's fault. That year at your wedding, my chest was injured and I couldn't attend. Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and found that there was indeed an old injury on the old lady's chest. It was faintly caused by the holy light. He knew that she was not being polite. Jiang Tian had a good impression of her and quickly said, Grandmother, we are not sensible. It has been so many years, and we have not come to visit you. Zhao Xueqing greeted the three aunts one by one. Jiang Tian and Li Roshi were then led into the living room and sat down as the host and guest. This kind of hundreds of years old big family kept some traditional ancient style. There were some picture frames hanging on the wall, and there were all kinds of photos inside. Jiang Tian glanced and asked with a smile, Qing'er, which one is our mother? Zhao Xueqing pointed to a black and white photo and said with a smile, this is her. She is even more beautiful than me. They are all beautiful. Jiang Tian smiled. Nailan Iran was about 10 years old at that time. She was wearing a cheongsam, and her face was gentle and pretty. But Jiang Tian found that Nailan Iran and Zhao Xueqing did not have the slightest similarity in appearance. Moreover, the old lady did not have the pure phoenix immortal body. She was just an ordinary physique. He could not help but secretly wonder. Zhao Xueqing and the old lady chatted for a while. She smiled and asked, Grandmother, where is my grandfather and three uncles? There are distinguished guests visiting today. They went to receive them. The old lady said with a smile, when they are done, we will meet together. I have already sent someone to inform them. Distinguished guests. Jiang Tian's divine sense was like a monstrous wave. It passed through the house and the courtyard, and silently broke the array restrictions in the house. In an instant, it enveloped the entire back garden. Sure enough, their background is not small. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed. He lowered his head and drank tea. The corner of his mouth could not help but show a meaningful smile. Chapter 976. At the same time, in the backyard of the Nailan family. In this backyard, every brick, every stone, every blade of grass and every tree had a history of hundreds of years. It was passed down from the Kangxi era. In the beginning, this place had been through wars and countless lives had been lost. However, it had never been damaged in the slightest. It had stood strong in Wu Town for 300 years. This was because there used to be a grand protective array that could withstand machine gun fire and cannonball bombardment. Every bonsai, every rockery, and even the teacups and saucers had witnessed the vicissitudes and history of the dragon protection family. In a gazebo. Nailan Bo, the old master, was sitting at the head of the table. He was chatting with a middle-aged man in a bright yellow robe. They were playing chess and drinking tea. Although Nalan Bo was almost 90 years old, his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. His breath was long and his body was as straight as a mountain peak. He was filled with the aura of a person who had been in power for a long time. He was already half a step away from the immortal state, but few people knew about him. If he showed up, it would cause a huge uproar. Beside him, the current head of the Nalan family, Nalan Li, and his two younger brothers could only stand respectfully and serve tea. Meanwhile, on the chessboard, two dragons, one black and one white, were locked in a fierce battle. It was hard to tell who would win and who would lose. Uncle Nalan, your chess skills are amazing. I am not as good as you. In the end, the middle-aged man heaved a sigh and gave up. You are only 45 years old, but you already have such a powerful killing move. You are indeed the descendant of the royal family of the Qing dynasty. Nalan Bo laughed and looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. However, deep in his eyes, there was a hint of fear. This young man was the descendant of the reclusive royalty of the Qing dynasty. He was the current head of the Jin family and the real crown prince, Jin So-hyun. He had hundreds of overlords who were loyal to the royal family. They were all at the transcendent state and two of them were at the immortal state. He even had the imperial seal of the Qing dynasty and many other Dharma treasures and Dharma artifacts in his possession. Hidden Dragon Dock. Jin Zixuan stood up and muttered the name of the manor. He seemed to have unintentionally said, back then, Master Kangxi named the waterside villa, Hidden Dragon. Doesn't that mean that the true dragon is hidden and the treasured sword is hidden? Once the world changes, the hidden dragon will emerge from the abyss, soar through the 9 heavens, and the treasured sword will be unsheathed to slaughter the world. Nalan Bo's expression changed slightly. He took a sip of tea and muttered, My lord, you've misunderstood. Every dynasty has its own royal Qi dragon vein. The Sui dynasty was in Hongnong, the Tang dynasty was in Chang and Enlongxi, the Song dynasty's dragon vein was in the area of Kaifeng and Luoyang. Our Qing dynasty's dragon vein was in the Changbai Mountains Yongling. Although my Nalan family is part of the dragon guardian lineage, there are two types of dragon guardians. One is to protect their own dragon vein and the other is to suppress other dragon veins. Lord Kangxi, Lord Yongzheng, and Lord Qianlong have worshipped our own Yongling's dragon vein 3 times. That place was guarded by an ancient bronze door. Later generations were not allowed to rashly enter, or else the heavens would punish them. At that time, the 3 masters only paid their respects across the river. They did not dare to rashly approach it. As for the dragon vein in Wuzhen, it does not belong to us and will not protect us. It will only fight for the fate of the Qing dynasty. At that time, the imperial advisor of the Kangxi dynasty discovered that there was a dragon vein here and that the true dragon was about to emerge. Lord Kangxi was shocked and sent my Nalan family's Qing Dezu to set up a feng shui formation to suppress the dragon vein. 10 years later, the dragon vein here was cut off. This was equivalent to extending the glory of the Qing dynasty for 300 years. Our mission has been completed. Nalan Bo finished gathering the chess pieces and extended his hand. He smiled and invited them, let's continue playing. My lord, let's continue playing chess. Nalan Li and the others are not good at chess. This old man hasn't been so happy in a long time. He wanted to change the topic and was unwilling to talk about this matter. However, Jin So-hyun would not let him do as he wished. This square chessboard only has 19 lines and 108 chess pieces. What's the point of it? Jin So-hyun was calm and composed. However, he looked at Nalan Bo with a burning gaze and said, a real man should use the 8 wastelands and 4 directions as the chessboard, the mountains, lakes, and seas as the chessboard, and the people of the world as the chess pieces. We should win glory and leave our name in history. The Jin family has been in seclusion for 300 years. Now, it is time for us to come out. The Nalan family has always been the trusted aid of the Jin family. Are you going to stand by and do nothing? Nalanbo's eyes suddenly lit up. Then, he lowered his eyelids and played with a chess piece. He tapped the chessboard lightly and said with a faint smile, "Nephew, the Qing dynasty has come to an end. Now, Huaxia is working hard to govern the country. The officials love the people like their own children. The seas are flowing and the rivers are clear. The economy is booming and the people are living and working in peace. This is a glorious era that has not appeared in 1,000 years. Do you think you still have a chance? Nalanbo, the world is changing. The spiritual energy is recovering. The original logic will change." Jin Sohyun only smiled and said bewitchingly, "In the future, it will be a chaotic era where the immortal realm experts will appear. It will also be a time of great bloodshed. You have forgotten about one person. Kang Tae-chu." Nalanbo hesitated for a moment and said coldly, "This person has already reached the heaven immortal realm and is the strongest person in the world. He can even suppress the Pentagon and is on good terms with the Huaxiaolong Formation and Huaxia. Who can defeat him?" A few months ago, the Heavenly Star's small world had already contacted the Jin family. Jin So-hyun's face was very serious, but his eyes were shining with greed. He was like a hungry wolf. "The stellar sky domain will enter the earth domain soon. That's an immortal we're talking about. How could an ordinary person possibly imagine their background? No matter how strong Kang Tae-chu is, he can only be the king of this wasteland world. How can he be compared to the experts of the stellar sky domain? The background of the stellar sky domain is not something Kang Tae-chu can compete with." Jin So-hyun smiled disdainfully and said, "The spiritual energy there is as vast as the sea. The experts there are as many as the clouds. There are tens of thousands of heaven immortals there. In their eyes, Kang Tae-chu is nothing. He is just an ant that can be crushed easily." The more Nalanbo listened, the more frightened he became. His face became more serious. Although he and Jiang Tian had never met before, Jiang Tian was his grandson-in-law. He did not want to see anything happen to his grandson-in-law, and he did not want to see Zhao Xueqing sad. Before this, he was very confident in Jiang Tian and hoped that Nalanbo would back off. But now, he began to worry whether Jiang Tian was a match for him. Finally, Nalanbo's body trembled. He could not take it anymore. He sighed and said, "My lord, I have something to report." "What is it?" Jin So-hyun smiled and said, "Kang Tae-chu is my grandson-in-law. Please don't make things difficult for him, my lord." Nalanbo stood up, bowed deeply, and said sincerely, "I didn't expect this." Jin So-hyun was stunned for a moment. Then, he clapped his hands and laughed. "I didn't expect your grandson-in-law to be the famous Kang Tae-chu. But, which granddaughter's husband is he?" Mysterious clans like the Nalan clan had a flourishing population, spreading branches and leaves, and had many children. Nalanbo had as many as 6 daughters and as many granddaughters as he could count on 2 hands. "She is Iran's daughter, Zhao Xueqing's." Nalanbo hesitated for a moment. Finally, he sighed and said with difficulty, It's that inauspicious girl. She's still alive." When he heard this, Jin Zishuan's expression changed greatly, and it changed indeterminately and successively. There was tenderness, regret, annoyance, and even hatred. Jin So-hyun and Nalan Iran were childhood sweethearts. They had a deep relationship and were betrothed to each other. Nalan Iran was supposed to marry Jin So-hyun. However, before Nalan Iran was married, she suddenly got pregnant. Moreover, she did not know whose child it was. Jin So-hyun was shocked and angry. He could not believe it. However, he loved Nalan Iran too much. He actually suggested that as long as Nalan Iran aborted the child, the marriage would proceed and he would treat it as if nothing had happened. To the Jin family, this was a great humiliation. It was unacceptable. At that time, the few elders of the Jin family were furious. They threatened to withdraw from the royal family and strongly opposed it. For such a woman, her death was not enough. She should be hacked into pieces and executed. Marrying a woman who had cheated on the crown prince and even had an abortion, he still wanted to marry her happily. Do you have any shame, Jin So-hyun? Where is the royal family's face? Whoever wants to withdraw from the royal family, get lost immediately. If you want to take away my position as crown prince, I can do that. But I must marry Nalini Ran. Moreover, I, Jin So-hyun, will marry no one but her. However, Jin So-hyun stood his ground against everyone's opinions. Under the huge pressure, he stubbornly insisted on marrying no one but Nalini Ran. Jin So-hyun's feelings for Nalini Ran, in many people's eyes, could be said to be as low as dust. It was very touching. However, no one would have thought that Nalini Ran was not willing to abort the child and was determined to keep it. She was very determined. She would rather be drowned in a pig cage and be hacked into pieces than to abort the child. After being forced into a corner by the Nalan family and Jean family, Nalini Ran actually injured the guards and left without saying goodbye. From then on, no one saw her alive or her corpse. At that time, Jin So-hyun felt deeply humiliated. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He could not recover from the setback. He spent his days indulging in sensual pleasures and indulged in women's charms. He would often get drunk and would not wake up for a few days and nights. He wished he could commit suicide. When Nalini Ran appeared again, it was already 3 years later. Zhao Xuecheng was already born and Nalini Ran had married a secular man, Zhao Hucheng. Of course, she and Zhao Hucheng were only husband and wife in name but not in reality. She only wanted to find a father for Zhao Xuecheng so that she could have a normal childhood life. For this, she even spent a large sum of money. But at this time, Nalini Ran was already suffering from a serious illness. Moreover, her blood and qi had dried up.